Okay, so for our Christmas week street talk, we have got 6 stories to cover this week.
Do you like my festive noise?
Yeah, lovely. Smug Scottish hit we'll have first. We've had a few more clues, but I'm still pretty much in the dark.
An almost Victorian one where we got to see the reflection of the murderer in his eye.
We did. We'll talk about that later. We're getting
not
close.
that he was murdered.
All I want for Christmas is Shona. Yeah, that's my poor storyline title for David. I enjoy the David and Shona stuff this week. I thought it was lovely. I mean,
considering
the on
that
and
I
off
wasn't
stuff throughout most of the week was a bit rubbish.
Well, I know them. This is the thing. It is a bit frustrating when you can see that clearly signposted lead up to some reconciliation because they made them fall out over something ridiculous. But it is Christmas, and that's what you do at Christmas. You fall out with people for no good reason. I very much enjoyed the
end of Friday's episode. Then we'll talk about the Ollie stuff and the Bitters BB Baby, which I had a little visitation from on Christmas Day.
Bitters BB Baby.
Little Mason. We had some Better Call Paul, although that storyline dropped off a cliff quicker than Billy did on Christmas Day a few years ago, halfway through the week. Jeffrey Metcalf was back towards the end of the week with some very Hilton-esque direction on a couple of those Yasmin
Not that
scenes.
It was a very Jeffrey Christmas.
It was not, no. And also another story that disappeared halfway during the week was winter sales, which was Gemma doing her selling on the markets, and Chesney and Kirk inexplicably coming up with some money out of thin air to buy Christmas presents and then never finding out what happened. I don't think they explain where the money came from anyway.
Didn't they sort of make dark allusions to something?
Yeah, they said, let's hope that she doesn't find out where we actually got the money from. But
I'm just imagining prostitution.
It's too cold for hanging around on street corners at this time of year.
Not if you're motivated.
I suppose that they've been hanging around on street corners all day selling stuff on the market. So.
They've probably had a few offers. I mean, Kirk he's not a looker, but he is got a good voice and nice singing.
He could have crooned them, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Right, so let's do the Adam story first then. So on Monday, Adam's still there in the hospital, sedated because he's got an infection. Sarah's still by his side, probably crying away, I don't remember. And then the detective, who I later found out was called D.S. Willis, later on in the notes it suddenly turns from policeman into Willis. But he comes in and says, right, I want to ask you about this watch, because last week we saw Bernie revealing all to the policeman about this watch that she magically found in the Greg Woods.
But it's okay because we've established that she's good at finding things.
Expert locator.
And it's St. Anthony. I realised this. I said St. Christopher because it's one of the few ones I know. But last week I was talking about how if you lose something you have to ask a saint to help you, and it's St. Anthony.
St. Christopher's probably, isn't that the one that you go if you go fighting?
It's for travelling.
Oh, okay.
So St. Christopher's been having a lot of misdirected requests, but is it bad to branch out if you're a saint? Why can't you do more than one thing?
Thank you, Ivy Tilsley. Sarah tells her story to Willis, including that she threw the watch away, which is exactly what happened to it. He's a little bit suspicious of this.
And she's playing it off like, yeah, well, you know.
She's so funny. She's hilarious. She says that she was drunk when she did it.
Oh, who hasn't thrown a watch away?
And can she remember the inscription on it? You can just see those little cogs in her brain turning her. What do I say here? Do I admit this or do I half admit this? And she's like, oh, Rick, I think it said something about that on there. So Maria later hears Brian talking to Bernie about this police digging at the watch thing. And she's mad because Bernie is mad because she didn't get the reward that he said that she would get by dobbing to the police. She didn't like being a snitch. And Maria says, Bernie, you said that Sarah bought the watch off you, is that right? So Bernie tells her everything. Also about the fact that Gary was also very keen to get his hands on the watch too. Weird, right? Says Bernie. And Maria goes, yes it is. Stroking her beard.
Stroking her chin, Michael. That's what you call it when you don't have a beard.
So Maria goes to Gary and asks him about the watch, and he's like, I don't know what you're talking about, mate. So she calls him a big fat liar. She says, she tells him everything she's heard, and he can't deny it for very much longer. He goes, oh yeah, that watch. I wanted to buy it to see if it really was Rick Neelan's, because people were saying it was Rick's. So I thought if I bought it off Sarah, I'd be able to find out if it was Rick's. It makes sense, right, doesn't it, babe? Maria was not convinced by this. And she also points out that it seems like a bit more than just a coincidence that it was dug up in the place that police are now hunting around for the body of Rick kneeling in, isn't it? Is Rick dead, Gary? And he's like, don't know. Sorry, mate, can't help you. But she doesn't seem to believe. Well, she says okay, but she doesn't. I don't think she believes him on the end of that episode.
So do you think that these unlikely relationships that we've had to endure this year, Maria and Gary and Sarah and Adam.
The thing is, I wouldn't call them unlikely relationships.
Well, they were just some boring people shoved together.
It was completely plot driven.
That's what I'm trying to say.
No chemistry, no attempt to develop them or show them.
But what do you mean by plot driven?
Well, they were put together so that all of this could happen.
That's what I'm just saying.
Yeah, there was no feeling of these people even like each other, which is kind of a prerequisite for most relationships to take place.
Oh,
what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, was it all just for this? Like, did they go back? Was it planned?
I think it
all
was
along.
I hope for their sake it was. I hope they weren't trying to build the new foundations of the next Jack and Vera or Mavis and Derek. Or
is that why they feel so empty? And is it really impossible for Coronation Street? Because really, this would have been much more compelling, I think, if you cared about the relationships a bit more.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I don't care about this at all. I'll tell you who I did care about, though, relationship-wise, that kind of took me off guard a little bit. On Friday's episode, one of the very last scenes on it, where Aggie comes home, she gets out of her car and Ed's there with his Christmas hat. You go, "Oh, Merry Christmas, my love." And she gives him a nice smile. And just that little interaction there made me believe in their relationship 10 times over anything we'd seen from Gary and Adam and Sarah and
it
Maria.
Is true. People criticise
just a little smile.
People criticise the Baileys, and it's quite right to, in some respects, because they have been fairly underused. And when they have been used, it's like a toddler breaking through a blimmin' ceramics shop with how clumsy everything has been. But what they have done, I think, pretty well is make a few establishing scenes where we get to know Ed and Aggie's about their relationship. We had that scene where Ed and Aggie were walking down the road and she was talking about working for the NHS. You remember that scene where they were walking in? It was kind of a really wide shot, and they were. I can't remember exactly what they were talking about.
Oh, it was to do with Ollie, probably.
And then we also had the scene where she was in the hotel quarantining because she had somebody she knew had contracted coronavirus, and so she had to isolate herself from the family during their wedding anniversary celebrations. And that was sweet. And then this moment when she comes home and she sees him there, they're actually bothering to make you believe in Ed and Aggie's
affection
marriage
for each other,
which is nice, because really, even though they haven't been in the show for very long, they're one of the longest married couples currently on the street, just because they haven't been around to be split up by the producers.
I've heard mixed opinions on Imran and Toyah recently as well, and some people are all for them as a couple, and other people are saying, no, I don't think that they've got any chemistry
that's not
or
true.
anything. And I think they have, but again, I still don't think that Corrie have done enough to show us that they love each other and they've got real affection for each other. I get the impression watching them that they get on.
I'll tell you something that it feels like with Imran and Toyah is that they feel like a couple who have been together for like 10 years rather than a couple that have been together for a very short amount of time.
In what sense?
Well, because they're not like lovey-dovey, romancy, like.
No, but I think we've missed that. We've got a few scenes at the beginning where Toyah would go into the lawyer's office and sweeps everything off of the desk. But I'd like to see them on a date or something.
I know, but can you see what I am trying to argue here?
Yeah.
Like, they feel like a long-established couple, even though they're actually not.
I think I see what you mean, but
like that comfortable. Like when you've been going out with somebody or married to somebody for a long time, it's like you're a family and you're just super comfortable with each other, and it's like you almost you take it for granted that the other person's always around. Whereas when you're like really super early in the relationship, you're all over each other. And we had a few scenes. I mean, really, as far as Coronation Street's concerned with setting up couples, we had hundreds and thousands of scenes worth of them, you know, getting it on with each other to establish that they're randy for one another, because we had like 2 scenes, which is more than some people ever get in the entire relationship.
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I suppose with Toyah and Imran as well, their relationship certainly doesn't feel plot-driven because they've not had any storylines. So it's got to be some other reason that they're together.
Yeah,
Maybe they like each other.
Yeah, I know. Also, because they're both quite sensible and they don't get overly emotional about things, it feels like they're very reserved generally.
Yeah.
So it makes sense
Imran
to me.
feels so happy about having his little...
We'll get to that in a minute. I'm excited.
Anyway, back onto Wednesday then
Yeah.
with the Adam storyline. Gary wakes up and he's doing some sneaky voggling about the police search and digging up the woods. I don't know why he doesn't just go to the Weatherfield Recorder's website and search there rather than doing
Maybe
just
if it's
random
anything
voggling,
like
but...
the Daily Echo's website, which is our local paper, you have to answer a survey before you can read an article. Have you bought car insurance in the last 10 years? Leave me alone.
So DS Willis comes over and Gary reminds Maria, don't forget, you're my alibi. I was with you all night. On that night that Alan got clonked on the head.
Alan?
Adam. Gary tells DS Willis that it had nothing to do with the attack on Adam. And then Willis kind of turns the tables on him and says, oh yeah, well what about the disappearance of Rick Neelan?
Well, he's like, yeah, DS Willis comes round and Gary thinks he's prepared and he's like, yeah, we're going to say that we're together, right, babe?
Caught off guard.
And then he's like, well, I don't care about that. I want to know about Rick.
So Daniel sees Gary being carted off and he's...
To answer more questions down the
Sarah
station.
is watching on very, very smugly.
She's such an idiot.
I know. Mira's looking concerned. Gary, though, is just acting cool because he thinks that he's got this all sus. He knows that the body isn't there. They're not going to find it. Whatever he's done with this, he reckons he's got all his alibis and his excuses in place.
This is
one of the excuses. No, you're right. I did kill Rick Neelan.
But listen, I know this is one of these cases where, like, if you're into true crime, you'll have heard hundreds of these really frustrating cases, and it's usually the boyfriend or husband has killed the woman, and it's like there's no body, there's no evidence that the person is even dead, and there's no way to tell when or how the person was killed, and it's really, really difficult to establish then if the person did it. I don't see, unless they can find I really don't see how they can get Gary for this unless somebody confesses here.
Well, they've got evidence that there was at least a body there.
I know, but they don't know whose body it was.
No,
and
they
considering
didn't go into detail about what the evidence was.
Considering the amount of men who have been floating around the canals recently, there's no end of dead bodies littering Weatherfield.
There wasn't like a graffiti like Rick Neelan was here or anything when they dug up.
Well, I mean, the watch was there.
The watch was nearby.
That's not evidence of a murder.
No, that's not enough. I think they seem to have found more, but I don't think they've said what exactly it is.
Oh, it's just like...
And Gary says he's not seen Rick Neelan in over a year. No idea what's happened to him. Sorry, I can't help you.
Last time I saw him, he was lying on the floor with his head caved in. Does that help you?
And he says, look, you haven't got any evidence. It's all based on gossip. And DS Willis realises, well, he seems to act as if he hasn't got a leg to stand on, so he has to let Gary go.
For all the advancements in science and what we can do with evidence and things, quite often the only way you can get somebody is that they confess that they did it.
Yeah, I don't think
Gary
is going to be doing that anytime soon, no. So Sarah, meanwhile, is confiding in Daniel about all these Gary rumours that are flying around, and Gary was definitely up to something the other night. She saw him.
But wait, says Daniel.
I thought you were supposed to be at home, says Daniel. And she's like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Oh yeah, but like I went out and I saw him because I was like doing
She literally said I was doing work stuff at the factory.
So like, but honestly, Sarah's understanding of how to run the factory, I think that's what she thinks she does all day long. Work stuff. What did you do today? Oh, like work stuff. Like, what does that involve? It seems to involve walking around the factory, telling Sean off and telling Kirk to pack things. And
sending emails off to people to make Carla look incompetent so that they don't get the orders that they're supposed to be getting.
Trying to undermine your own business during an unprecedented pandemic and possible, well, almost definite recession.
Yeah. Well, she ends up getting a bit defensive about this and leaves. DS Willis goes to see Maria later and says, tell me about Rick and Gary's relationship. She says, well, they did a bit of work together, but that's all I know.
They roughed up Granny.
He says that Rick might have been murdered, but she just doesn't know about that. By the way, he says, do you know that it's a criminal offence to lie to the police?
Now, this...
Are you sure you was with Gary all night?
DS Willis is doing a Columbo, isn't he? Because he keeps going up to the door to leave, and then he turns around and he says, one more thing. I really like this. It's a bit cheesy and silly, but I really like the fact that...
Are you telling the truth?
He's got a bit of a gimmick, and he does this quite often. He'll go, yeah, okay, and then he'll go and go, one more thing.
Like Trevor McDonald at the end of the 10 o'clock news.
The balls of a guy to, if this was real life, to use a technique from a detective TV show that's really cliche. I love it.
Well, it looks like Maria has cracked because Willis goes back to Gary later with a statement from Maria saying that actually he could have popped out. And they didn't go into detail about what the statement says, but they showed it on screen. We paused it, didn't we? It was basically saying, I had a bath.
Yeah, I had a bath, so it's possible he wasn't there, but I didn't hear the door
go, but he wasn't with me all the time. And Willis takes this as definite evidence that Gary did leave, doesn't he? But
I reckon she's lying, though. I think she's been a bit shifty. I don't think she was in the bath. I think she just had a bit of an issue in the loo. She was held up for a good half an hour.
Trying to flush down. Really stubborn. Number 2. So, Gary calls Willis's bluff and says, well, arrest me then. If you think I was there and I did it, then put me in handcuffs. But Willis says, no, our investigations are ongoing. And he leaves, just leaving Gary a little bit rattled. Meanwhile, Jenny has found Adam's phone wedged between the seats in the Rovers.
Yeah, I got confused.
This is a little bit of a mystery.
Because I was like, his wallet was there all the time, but it's not his wallet. It's just his phone with
a lot of people...
with a card in it.
Yeah. Because it has got his business card, doesn't it? But we've had the storyline recently where he's lost his wallet, but this isn't.
What is wrong with Adam?
This is just his phone.
He's walking around, leaving things all over. He needs a man bag.
Well, the other confusing bit about this is the fact that when he went to the bistro to play his Christmas music, people assumed that he was using his phone to play music on that Bluetooth speaker. But I'm guessing maybe he was just using the actual in-house equipment at the bistro.
I don't... it's weird. I also don't like why did he leave his phone there? How did he lose his phone? Considering that's probably got really personal information about clients, you'd think he'd be a bit more careful.
I'm sure it's password protected.
I know, so
guess it in 3 tries. So Sarah sees Gary and says, oh yeah. She also goes to see Craig. Craig's there and she's like, what's going on with Gary? I thought he was arrested earlier. And he's like, I can't tell you. Can't tell you. It's, well, go on then.
I can't tell you. And then he sort of gestures
you twisted me arm.
Gestures with his finger. Come here, I'll tell you.
Craig is... It feels like at the moment the only reason that Craig was made a policeman is so that anyone who wants to can have easy access to confidential police information.
I literally don't care.
It's getting a bit silly, really.
I think it's fine.
He needs to be dragged across the coals as a Craigie.
He needs to have rap on the knuckles at least.
He does. He needs something because it's not the first time. It's not even the second
Officer
time.
Tinker, can you explain to me why every single person in this small vicinity knows what are police investigations about 3 different ongoing crimes?
Yeah.
Why do they know everything about it? I don't know. And then Craig goes, I do know, come in. It was me. I was telling them everything. But don't tell anybody because I'll get in trouble.
He's called Officer Tinker because he tinkers with the evidence, doesn't he? Anyway, so now Maria knows what's been going on. He says, look, there's possible evidence in the woods, but the DNA is too degraded to be conclusive. So I guess they did say a little bit more. What does that even mean?
What do you think?
Is that there was
they found where the body was buried,
but they didn't find the actual body.
They didn't find the body, but they can DNA test the soil,
okay,
and they can say, well, it looks like there was a body here, but we can't tell you whose body it was. We can't test it against, say, R. Kelly to find out if it's Rick's.
Yeah. We found some DNA, and it was either from somebody called Nick or somebody called Rick. So we
really can't.
No idea.
And there's loads of dead Nicks and Ricks and...
Jenny brings the phone that she's found to Daniel. He looks a bit suspicious and plugs it into the wall. And it was at that moment we realised, oh, it's a phone and not a wallet.
And then when he plugged in, I was like, why has he plugged his wallet in? What's going on? Is there some new thing that I need to buy? Some new technology?
So
An iWallet.
Sarah goes to Gary and says, where's the body then? She says, you had something to do with Adam's attack as well, didn't you? He says, well, I don't know, maybe you're trying to cover your own tracks because you're the one that bopped Adam on the head. So Maria walks in on this and the accusations flying all over the place. Sarah leaves. Maria's mad at Gary and goes to take Liam out for his tea. We haven't seen Liam. Daniel returns home later from the hospital.
I am really loving the coronavirus doing a number on the child cast of Coronation Street, to be honest with you.
Daniel finds messages on Adam's phone, and as soon as he plugged it in, the messages started dinging up, didn't they? So if he'd only been a bit more patient, he could have found this earlier. And all it is, there's one that's a missed call from Peter, one from Sarah saying, I need to see you, and then another one from Sarah saying, don't hold out on me or I promise you'll be sorry. Incriminating indeed. Gary has stern words with Maria at the end of the episode for the fact that she gave that statement to the police, and Maria's like, oh yeah, well, why does Sarah think that you killed Rick anyway then? You didn't kill him, did you? I don't know. What do you think? And he's like, I didn't kill him, honestly. She does not believe a word he says, orders him out, and says, if you don't leave, I'm going to phone the police. Thursday, Christmas Eve.
I can't believe it. They're such a great couple.
Gary cannot get hold of Mia on the phone. R. Kelly is there. She'd been staying overnight at Summer's house, hadn't she, on Wednesday night? So she comes in for one episode appearance on Thursday to see Gary.
She's a bit of an orphan, isn't she? Because her dad's died ages ago and she doesn't realise it. And her mum's gone.
Yeah. Mum's absconded again. So I don't know where she's supposed to be living when she's not having sleepovers with Summer. I don't know whether they said or not. But she's back on the cobbles anyway. And she wants to know, can I speak to my dad, please? Because I'm on my own. Meanwhile, Daniel is grilling Sarah after getting all these messages pop up on Adam's phone. And she says, oh, yeah, right. So, I did meet Adam on the street that night. And then I went back home. I definitely didn't go into the factory or anything. I just met him and then went home.
I was going to do work stuff. But then I was like, no. Because it's like, why would I? And then I was like walking around and I forgot why I came outside. And then I was like, oh, it's Adam. And then I was like, oh, well, I'll go back.
You could
home.
technically be a scriptwriter for Sarah Louise. you got nailed her down to a T. Daniel's going to the hospital later because they're going to try and wake up Adam again. So meanwhile, Gary has come back home and R. Kelly wants him to call her dad.
Call me dad. And then
dad.
Gary's like, oh, it's not appropriate because you're not even a man.
But the police took her. Oh no, I just skipped a line there. He says that I've not heard from your dad in ages. Sorry, I can't remember when the last time is that he's supposedly spoken to Rick, because that always used to be his line, wasn't it? Like,
he said,
just got off the phone from him, but I don't know where he is. He wants me to go beat up some people and get money off of them. Interestingly, Kelly says that she got a Christmas card from her dad, but the police took it away for fingerprints. So Kelly leaves. Maria this must be the first time then that Maria finds out that Gary was ever in contact with Rick, post disappearance.
It's
so she
getting
starts
really
grilling him
confusing
about
it's
who because
remembers.
The story's been so protracted, hasn't it? It's like, I don't remember what people remember and know. And
it is fun. It is fun because it's a detective like murder mystery story that you couldn't really tell over. Like I keep saying, you couldn't really tell this in any other way. You couldn't tell it this way in any other story
an
because
hour-long
it's
drama or anything.
Yeah, but because of that, the clues are strewn over like a 12-month period of hundreds and hundreds of episodes of a show that isn't really specifically about that.
And sometimes they bank on the fact that you've forgotten something so that they can pull the rug out from under you. And other times I think they're kind of hoping that you remember something.
And also sometimes they retcon stuff and hope that you don't realise they've done that.
Yeah, totally. Or sometimes they bring things up and then they just drop it. The report.
Yeah, what report?
Rana hasn't had a mention this week, has she?
Because really,
D.S. Willis needs to say one more thing, Gary. Do you know anything about the hospital, the factory roof coming in?
And wouldn't Imran be involved in that too? Because he was hot on working this out. Wouldn't he be interested? I know he's distracted. Yeah. Because I kept saying, oh, why does Imran care? And you were like, well, because his sister got a factory dumped on her head like she's the Wicked Witch of the West.
Gary comes over to the house again later to bring Liam's present. I think it was Liam's present or Jake. I don't know. But he's not there. It must have been Liam. Maria starts to nag Gary about Rick again, but he swears, I'm just as much in the dark as you are, love. She cannot tell if he's lying. And he says, I promise I'm telling the truth. And they have a whole no more secrets.
She says no more secrets.
No more secrets, okay, Gary? Absolutely no. This week we had no more secrets and best Christmas ever uttered on that Thursday episode, didn't we? I know. Oh, what a treat it was. Well, she just wants a divorce. Shocking. How long have they been married? 3 months? 4 months? And this,
you have to wait a
this
year.
is another one of these that's very true, actually. They can't have a divorce until next summer anyway.
Yeah.
But this is another one of those ultimatums where did anybody in the audience go, oh no, not Gary and Maria?
Can I just point out the utter crass selfishness of somebody who actually managed to get married in 2020, wanting a divorce before the year is even finished?
I know, that's just rubbing it in everyone's faces.
Yeah, with all these poor couples who couldn't get married this year because of the coronavirus, watching this going, well, yeah, maybe you should get a divorce.
One of my colleagues at school is getting married tomorrow. And she's just, over the past week, I guess. I think she's still going ahead with it, but she just had to cut her guest list down to 6 at the last minute, which is very horrible. Anyway, she wants a divorce. Gary goes back to the furniture shop and takes out his frustrations on a Santa Claus doll that's there, ho-ho-hoing as he goes into it. Meanwhile, and I found this, during Thursday's episode, I was kind of watching it going, yeah, this is happening in front of my eyes, but I'm not really interested in it. I'm not particularly gripped. But this scene where Sarah's in the factory deleting an email, that made me prick up my ears. It's like, oh, what's going on here? Sadly, it didn't turn out to be anything that interesting, and it wasn't a secret for much longer.
I told you exactly what I thought it was, and it...
Yeah, you were right. Because, we'll get to it. Because it had been...
it wasn't a protracted mystery along the lines of many of the other things involved in this story.
No, but I did enjoy that. The end of Thursday's episode was quite good. It was another little montage, wasn't it? It was kicked off by Leanne listening to her sad Christmas music. And at the very end of the episode, Adam wakes up and Daniel's there. And he says, I can tell you exactly who did this.
Dun, 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 dun.
Friday.
I was like, I can't believe this. He knows. I was not expecting this at all. I was expecting him to not remember.
Well, this is what the mystery in this is, really, because we get to Friday, Christmas Day's episode, and he later tells Daniel that he didn't see his assailant, but he smelt the whiskey on his breath. Yet the opening scene on Friday was a flashback, which I can't remember the last time, if ever, Coronation Street did a flashback scene like this. It
must
feels
have done
like
a
a very
at some point, but
EastEnders-y, Hollyoaks-y, Emmerdale-y kind of thing to do.
Long time.
Honestly, if anyone would like to write in and tell me, has Coronation Street ever done a flashback like this, please let me know, because I honestly
when you
can't
say
remember.
like this, what do you mean?
In any way.
Okay.
Saying, and this is how something happened. I just don't think
I'm sure
that...
we have had one, but I wouldn't be able to tell you when, so maybe not very reliable.
It starts... It's Adam in the bistro, isn't it? Playing his Santa Claus is coming to town, and he's sitting there lonely and moody on the bar, and he's like looking behind him because there's a shadowy figure.
It's like the person's running backwards and forwards in front of the camera, and Adam keeps turning around going, what?
And then the power cut happens quite handily. And then the candles go out, and it's all, and then it kind of goes green. This was very Matt Hilton-y, wasn't it?
And then it freeze frames.
It was almost dream sequence-esque.
This is when we saw the reflection.
He turns round, and we see the attacker's face reflected in Adam's pupil. And if you pause it on there, you can see quite clearly, but I can't figure out who it is. So I can't reveal anything here. But
this is what I like.
Go back
really like
and pause it, because you can see their eyes and the bridge of their nose, can't you? And a bit of eyebrow.
It took me a while to see it.
It should be enough to be able to tell. All I could say from it is that it looked like somebody with fairly smooth skin and youngish looking, and basically not Peter. It didn't look like that was Chris Gascoigne's face reflected in Adam's eye there. So interestingly, they've kind of given away who it is if you want to play match the eyes, and usually seeing somebody's eyes is enough to be able to tell. But in my head, I'm like, I can look at it and say, I think it's so-and-so, because in my head, I think it's Simon, or maybe I think it's Faye. So my brain looks at it and says, oh yeah, that's Simon or Faye. But I don't know if it is. Don't know. But yeah, Adam is saying to Daniel, I didn't see who my attacker was, yet he very clearly did see who his attacker was.
But
he's
perhaps
pinning it
that
on Peter.
Information is lost from his brain because it didn't remember that bit.
I don't know.
Forget, it's a process. Your brain has to file the information from your short-term to your long-term memory, and if you get hit over the head while it's doing that, it kind of like doesn't work.
I don't know. It seems
Michael, he's saying he doesn't know.
He says he doesn't know, but is he just saying, I think it's Peter because it smelt like Peter, it smelt like boozy Peter, or is he just trying to pin it on Peter for reasons because they were having a fight before? And I would say it's more likely to be that.
Well, he says it's the same whiskey that Peter was drinking earlier. It's not just the smell of whiskey, it's a specific sort of whiskey that he is sure that Peter
like honey
was
sort
drinking.
Of whiskey.
Oh, sounds like honey jack. I don't know whether, because he hasn't told the police yet this information. So
did he speak to the police at all on Friday? Or the police too
are just
busy
going
having
around
their Christmas?
Right, listen, Maria, we know that you was in the bath. We know that you was having trouble on the loo. What did you eat that day? Because I want to avoid it. And she's like, I think it was the prawns.
Yeah, we don't have any police visiting Adam, despite the fact that usually on soaps, like the very second that somebody's woken up from a coma.
And everyone's surrounding them going, oh, are you all right? And the police are like, get out of the way. Who done it? Who done it? Was it you? Did you do it to yourself? We haven't had that yet, but I'm waiting for it to happen. I'm pretty sure one of these days it's going to be someone done it to themselves.
Gary comes over to Jenny's glühwein stall, which is out on the street on Christmas morning. She and Daisy are there selling mulled wine. And
I
he
just
has
want to say...
Go on.
Somebody asked what's the difference between glühwein and mulled wine. I don't really know. But... What?
One of the characters did, didn't they?
Yeah.
And Ken said it's geography.
Yeah, basically. But when we went to Copenhagen last year and we had mulled wine in from Denmark, what they do, which is really nice if you want a nice idea, is they put blanched sliced almonds and raisins in there in the drink, and it tastes really nice, and you get to eat boozy nuts and fruit.
That doesn't sound like I'd like that at all.
No.
Anyway, Gary's there, Sarah's there. He has a go at her for making Maria ask him for a divorce, and he also reveals to all and sundry that he saw her outside the factory on the night that Adam was hit. And Sarah's like, yeah, I was in there sending an email from Carla.
First of all, she goes, okay, and then she turns to Carla and says, right, I'm going to have to...
Carla, can I have a private word with you? And Gary's like, no, tell everybody.
Yeah, it was quite dramatic, and she reveals that she's a stupid idiot.
So what's she
and
done?
it's like, Sarah, you don't need to reveal this. Everybody knows that you're stupid.
She'd sent an email to another factory.
Yeah, for an order, which she put the wrong number on it.
Yeah,
and then she went back and she deleted it from the, I assume, outbox or sent folder, so that there was no evidence.
Except there was evidence because the person that they sent it to.
We had this argument with you, between us, where you were saying that the person who got the email sent to them would have the evidence, and I was saying, there's no, like, if you've made a mistake like this, as the factory, you're not going to go to the other person and say, can I see the email that we sent to you, so that I can say the person who owns the factory was trying to stitch up another person who owns the factory to get back at them because that person had an affair with the other person's husband. You keep your mouth absolutely shut about it and hope that they didn't mention it, because that makes you look more incompetent.
If I was a murder suspect and the police were honing in on me, I think I might risk it.
Yeah.
Especially if I was Sarah. She didn't care how incompetent she was.
I know, but you don't need to go to the factory owner and ask them to prove it.
Also, I don't even think... I'm surprised that Sarah even needed to go to the factory to do the email. Couldn't she just, like, remote it in? Didn't have remote access?
She knows how to do that.
Okay, fair enough. Anyway, Gary's...
Also, why would you want to have remote access to the factory when you live next door to it? It's much more convenient.
Pandemic, stay at home.
No.
Save lives, protect Aggie.
Yeah.
Gary's myth, because everybody immediately believes Sarah Lou. And then when they're like, where were you then, Gary? We know what Sarah was doing. She was making herself look stupid. What were you doing?
One of the things that everybody says immediately when she says this, I was sending an email to Carla, from Carla, was, yeah, well, she must be telling the truth because she's made herself look like a right mug and nobody would do that. And I said to you, aha, see, this is what I say to you. One of the cardinal rules of telling a lie is to make yourself look stupid so that nobody would believe that you're telling a lie again.
Yeah. So Gary gets quizzed about where he was and he's like, I'm not telling you. Who do you think I am, Craig? And he walks off. Wrong ginger. Peter later shows up in Adam's room because
Yes.
Daniel has texted him that Adam tried to pin this bludgeoning on him. And he
Daniel's
says,
not really convinced that Adam's right about this, is he? I don't think.
I thought he was.
Well, why did he text him then? Why would you text him? If you thought that your brother had tried to kill your nephew, or whoever he is, wouldn't you tell the police before you texted the person who was the would-be murderer?
Maybe.
I question his motivations here, if this is... Anyway, Karen.
Unless Daniel was the one that did it. And he's just trying to keep it all on the down low.
If you were the one that did it, you would be thrilled to hear Adam say that he thought it was Peter, and you'd immediately get the police to get Adam to tell them that it was Peter, to get you completely off the hook.
Well, Peter says, I didn't do it, but I'd gladly shake the hand of whoever did. And that's when we got one of the episode's numerous sound effects of drama and thrillerness. It was like a... And I get why they did it some of the time with Yasmin, but I didn't really think that needed punctuating with that particular sound effect, but maybe it's just me. At the end of the episode, Peter and Daniel are having a chat at the pub, and Peter once again denies that it was him.
Yes. And then Friday's episode obviously was the Christmas Day episode, and we watched this with my parents.
Oh yeah, flipping parents talking all over it.
Shut up.
No, they weren't.
I told you. I said to you. Didn't I say?
I wanted to watch it at the same time as everybody else.
I don't care. I said to you, only put this on if you don't mind, because I was talking to them as well.
Yeah, you were also filling them in on.
This is what I was going to say. This is why I brought it up in the first place. I love watching Coronation Street on Christmas Day with people that don't watch the show normally, because I can fill them in on everything that happened, and I love how ridiculous it all sounds, because I was like, okay, right, so what's going on here is this guy was hit over the head by one of his relatives, and there's all these suspects and we don't know who it was. This guy here who's shouting at everybody outside the pub killed a man last year and buried him in the woods, and they've just found a body. These two got married earlier in the year, but now they're broken up because he's a murderer and she's trying to hide the fact that she disposed of a body like 5 years ago. Oh, this couple here, she's lost her memory because she was shot in a box last Christmas. I really enjoy it.
Your parents didn't question any of this?
No, they just thought it was hilarious.
Right.
And at the end of it, I did say to them, based on today's episode, what would you give it out of 5? And Mum gave it 3.5 and Dad gave it 3.
Oh yeah.
Which I thought was pretty good. Mum said she thought it was quite enjoyable.
Oh,
she quite
nice.
liked watching it. Which is good, considering that really there's no context for a lot of stuff that happened. But one of the things my mum liked was the Shona and David story. Yeah.
Which is lovely. So, who done it, Gemma? What's your latest thinkings?
The thing is, I really am enjoying the process of the whodunit, and I really have no theories. I'm not really strongly feeling anybody in particular, which I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, because I remember when it was Ken, I'm pretty sure I had some really strong opinions about who I thought it was. And even when it was the Frank Foster one, I was like, well, it's definitely his mum. And when it was Tina, I was like, oh, it definitely isn't Rob. But I don't know who I have no...
I think during the Ken Barlow one, we had some strong opinions on who it was, but they would change quite drastically from week to week, and they kept us on our toes by having these extra twists thrown in there, and like, Rob Donovan turning up and things. It's like, but what if this? And it doesn't feel to me like they're being quite as clever about keeping us on our toes. And like I said before, because I don't care as much who it was as I did of the who killed Ken, who pushed Ken. Damn. It feels like maybe it's going to be revealed soon. Do you feel like they're on the edge?
I feel like this is going to be a New Year's Eve sort of revelation. I was really wrong-footed by the fact that Adam woke up and said, I know who it was, and then he didn't actually know who it was. That was quite funny. I'm just enjoying it. I'm just really enjoying it. But the downside to this is, in my opinion, that it's almost certainly going to be the case that whoever it is faces no consequences. This happens all the time. They set this up with really high-profile characters, and you just know, because it's the sort of the Barlow family, same as what happened with Ken's stuff. You know that it's going to be. They're going to be like, well,
the Barlows will close ranks.
Yeah, and they'll be like, well, I did shag your wife or whatever it ends up being. So
we've all done things we were ashamed of. Let's just forget about it.
And Ken will give everybody a lecture and then go and tell somebody to keep their mouth shut, like probably Sarah, like he did that time where he dressed up like the mafia don. Who was he telling to keep their mouth shut?
He was telling Billy to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, so he'll do that to Sarah, maybe, like, keep your mouth shut.
Yeah.
If you know what's good for you.
It does kind of feel like at the end of this, nothing will have changed.
Yeah.
Apart from, I think the Gary and Rick thing has got to have some kind of longer lasting consequences.
I still
but I'm
don't
not
know
sure
where
about
that's
this.
going. I really am enjoying the fact that there are two things going on at once with the Rick stuff and the Adam stuff and Sarah being involved. And even though I don't buy their relationships, the fact that it's Maria and Adam and it's more interesting than it would have been if they weren't all going, all sort of paired up.
I guess. I just think that if it had been a different set of characters, I might have been invested.
I know,
in it
but there are
more.
probably, I assume, some people that really like these characters.
Oh,
I've never met
so.
anybody that really.
See, but back to the who done it. I'm still saying it. I still reckon Simon or Faye have got quite a big, waving a big flag saying it was me. I think the fact that they're not showing them, it just feels like the way it's been plotted is a bit of a misdirection from Coronation Street and watching us observe all these others fighting out and blaming each other, whilst Faye and Simon are both staying
well out
of it. They really, really are. And seeing that reflection in the face, the first time the first time I looked at it, I was like, I think that could be Simon. Although why Adam wouldn't say it was Simon, I'm not sure. Did Simon have any of his dad's whiskey? I don't know, because we saw them on the night that Adam was hit. I think the last time we'd seen Simon was he'd found out his dad was drunk in the gardens. Then he goes back and has a bit of a paddy in Leanne's house, doesn't he? Did he get drunk there? I don't know, but it wouldn't be completely out of character for him to spiral. Although there was no headache the next day, and then Faye as well, because I'm still thinking maybe there's they thought it was Ray theory that's floating around. And there was something interesting that somebody on Facebook mentioned, which I spotted as well the second time I watched this episode. Tim mentions on the Christmas Day episode that Sally has polished off their bottle of whiskey. So Elaine brings round whiskey to replace the one that Sally supposedly finished, and Sally said, I just put a splash in the mince pies, which is kind of, to me, feeling like Sally saying, no, I didn't polish it off. It's a mystery about where our whiskey's gone. So did Faye
drink the whiskey?
Did she drink the whiskey to try and numb the pain or to forget about Ray or whatever? She was going through a bit of a rough patch, let's just say. Did she finish off Sally's whiskey, which just so happened to be the same whiskey that Peter was drinking on that night, and then go to the bistro
and attack
and bop Adam on the head?
Okay,
the only other thing for this was that Faye doesn't look worried when Tim mentions the whiskey.
Now I think it's Faye.
Why? Because of that clue?
Yeah. And I think that if it gets revealed to be Faye, I don't think Adam would hold, press charges or anything.
Why?
Because he'd be like, look, you didn't mean it. You didn't mean to hit me.
At the time, right now, he doesn't realise that she didn't know it was him. If she thought it was...
What motivation would she have?
If she thought she was attacking Ray, but I don't know whether he'd think of that. I don't think he'd immediately go, it's Faye. She must think it's...
you still think he's covering? See, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't think he's covering for anybody. I think he's just confused.
I don't know.
And I really
feels to me like he's covering stuff.
No, I don't think so. You think that just because the reflection was in the eye, I think that was partly dramatic to create intrigue, and partly you wouldn't remember the split second before you were hit, because people get attacked. This happens in real life, and you don't know who it was. There's a famous incident of a boy who went crazy and attacked both his parents with an axe. The dad woke up with half his brain missing, walked around the house, emptied the dishwasher, and then collapsed on the floor and died. The mum lived through it, and it was obviously the son who did it, and she still doesn't believe that it was him that did it. And she was chopped to pieces by her son, and she won't admit it because she didn't see it, so she won't believe it. I don't think he remembers, and I think the whiskey thing is a very good clue. And I think that if Adam found out that it was Faye, I can see him saying, "I'm not going to ruin her life. she was drunk, she thought I was somebody else, really I don't care, I want to put this all behind me.
And pin it on Peter.
No, I don't think you're adding that.
If Peter
you're
was,
adding that.
If Peter was drunk, and he people could very well say he doesn't remember everything that went on that night.
Yeah, I know,
I
but
suppose
you're
he's
saying
got his
something
alibi
different.
with drunk bloke in the park.
Michael, you're saying something different to what I'm saying. I'm saying if Adam finds out and it was fate, he would forgive her. End of story. You're adding something else on the top, which I'm not saying, but I agree with you. But I'm just trying to clear the air here. All I'm saying is, at the end of this, whoever it is that's done it, I don't think he's going to get into trouble. So if it was Faye, it would make sense that she wouldn't get into trouble because she's so young, and I think Adam wouldn't press charges because I think he understands also, being a lawyer, what effect that would have on her life. How she'd end up being, that would go on her record, she wouldn't be able to get jobs, etc, etc. It's not going to help her in the long run, is it? And it's not going to get justice because it wasn't as though... And I also think Adam's the sort of guy who would probably go, yeah, well, Ray probably did deserve to be smacked on the head. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah,
He's a very vengeful person. But what you're saying is something different to what I'm saying. You're saying that Adam knows it was Faye, but he's still trying to stitch up Peter. Yes?
Yeah.
And I think that's also a very interesting direction for the story to go in, but that's not what I was saying.
Okay. What did you think of the Friday episode start in the row with the flashback? Did you?
I was like, what's happening? Oh, it's weird. I quite liked it. I thought it was a bit too horror movie-esque, though. I thought the running
too
backwards...
horror movie-esque for you?
Running backwards and forwards in front of the camera didn't make sense. It didn't... I think the whole thing was a bit of an artistic reimagining rather than an actual flashback. I don't think it's supposed to really represent what actually happened because we got the reflection in the eye. Adam clearly didn't actually see that person. We got whoever it was running around. You're not going to run around in the darkness when you want to attack somebody, are you? You're just going to walk up to them when they're distracted and hit them.
Unless you're a bistro ninja.
Bistro ninja's dead.
Yeah, I didn't mind it. I was wondering what we would get because I think Matt Hilton had directed Thursday and Wednesday's episodes as well. And we hadn't seen any of his
he did
trademark
there were a
weird
few,
camera angles.
There were a few, thing. But you didn't notice.
It wasn't obvious, and it wasn't. So I was thinking, what are we going to get on Friday? So when it started off with this, I was like, oh, okay. And I think I have got over the fact that Corrie doesn't do that. Partly because I've seen, having watched some of the older episodes, sometimes they always kind of did, and it wasn't very often. And part of me is like, oh, well, they do it now. I've lost that battle against...
So what you don't like, what are you complaining about?
Breaking tradition and having filmic things, having the music montages, having the sound effects.
Yeah,
I fought against
I'm totally
it for
over
long
it
enough.
Now. I don't care anymore.
And it's like, okay.
It's like they do it on purpose.
Let's just enjoy it like they want us to.
Yeah.
What else was there going? So the Christmas card thing to Rick, just jumping completely to that now. Are we to assume that Gary sent Kelly that Christmas card?
So she told Gary that she got this card, right?
Yeah.
It must be Gary then. Because Gary wasn't surprised. If somebody else had sent it, Gary would have gone, what? Can I say it?
I can't remember whether she told Gary or whether she told Maria, but we did find out that it got sent in for forensics, and that made me wonder, like, has Gary been really stupid, or would...
I don't think it would be stupid of him to not realise that they would dust this for prints.
I suppose if he's been doing it, for the past year and a half, pretending to be her dad, trying to throw the police off the scent.
I don't think he would have worn gloves to do this.
So that's going to come and bite him in
if
the butt
he does,
he's
he's smarter than I thought he was.
So that's ongoing.
Also, can we just point out that who does he know how to do Rick's handwriting?
I don't know, actually.
I think even as a young child, I would know my parents' handwriting from anybody else's handwriting.
Yeah, that is a really good point.
He's got evidence. He's got a
Rick's
book,
little black book,
so he can copy the handwriting. But the other thing that I'm thinking that they didn't get brought up, so it can't be what actually happened, but it would make total sense, is that it just got sent from like
Funky Pigeon or Moon Pig,
just go on a website that posts the cards directly to the person and it's all typed out. There's no handwriting involved. But the police wouldn't then...
See, if I was pretending to be Rick and abroad in some foreign country, I might think that that's the
what I
best
would have
option.
done,
Like,
yeah.
oh, I've left it a bit late, so I'm going to
Also-
send something that will get to you in time for sure.
Well, also, I'm really lazy. Like, I personally will send cards from there because I don't have to write in it or remember anything or put a stamp on it. It gets sent straight there. The only thing is, you don't get your handwriting inside it.
Tell you what, if Rick Neelan really did send that card, you know what that makes him? A card shark. Let's move on to the next story, Gemma. The happy story of the week. Eventually it got there. All I want for Christmas is show.
Yep, so Monday, Shona wakes up, she's hungover. She and Simon had been gallivanting and frolicking in the bistro overnight.
Oh yeah, that kind of got
it was very briefly brought up.
It got swept under the carpet, didn't it? Had no consequences.
She's ironing apologetically later. David finds her and he says, "Are you still angry? It won't happen again. Thank you for sticking by me." And then Ray comes and says to Dave, well, they're outside, and Ray's saying to David, "Oh, I've got the memory stick with CCTV footage of Simon and your radio rental misses. I'm going to give it to the cops." And David says, I'll give you the money for everything they took. And Ray's not really interested. He says, "What I want you to do is stop slacking me off and drop the campaign against me." And David doesn't want to do this, but he has no choice, really. And he wants the evidence back, but Ray's like, "No way, I'm not giving it back to you."
Well, it's silly anyway. Ray could have handed him over this memory stick. It probably
Well,
cost him a
anytime.
£5, and he's like,
Yeah,
I've
here you
got it on my
I didn't delete it off my
computer. It's on my
laptop,
hard
you
drive just
lunatic.
over there. Yeah.
Yeah, so he goes back home, he tells Shona about the CCTV and explains what's happened. And she's like, "Oh, brilliant, you sorted it out then." And David's annoyed because it really isn't sorted out, and he didn't want to have to give this concession to Ray, and she's put him in an awkward position, but she doesn't really realise it. So he goes off in a huff. He wants to chat later, and he asks her, "Are you happy?" And she says no. And he says, "Would you be happier if you lived somewhere else, like Roy's?" And she says, "Yes." So well, that's the end of that then, isn't it? So later on, Shona's been thinking about this, and she says, "I think I got the answers wrong to the questions. Can you ask me them again?" And David says, "No point. You told me what you think. It's not working. We should split up. Let's wait till after Christmas to tell the kids." And they both look really sad. And this was just like a classic misunderstanding kind of. I can see where it came from, because David just, is at the end of his rope here with trying to navigate through Shona's strange thought
Well, he's already been
processes.
saying to Gail, like this last week, "I don't think this is working." And then this was confirmation from Shona
It really
herself,
is.
wasn't it?
It's like the Shona that he married is gone forever. She'll never come back. And although Shona can remember some things from her life before, her personality is very, very different. I mean, there's still some things that are similar about her to the old Shona, but she's a different person. And this is one of those things where you think, when you do your marriage vows and you say for better or for worse and all this stuff, does it count if the person I know, but I'm saying, like, the person's personality has changed, and it's not just being shot in a box that can do stuff like this to you. Like, you can have a brain tumour and your personality can change, or just even a concussion or something. Or
It's
or
like
even
it's
just
like Arthur with his wife in the hospital, isn't it? He's still sticking by her,
yeah,
even
And
though
it's-
she doesn't even know who he is.
and it's understandable in both scenarios. Like, what Arthur's doing is completely understandable, but what David's saying as well is like, it's the same thing. It's difficult to know. So on Wednesday, Nina triumphantly gives Shona this portrait that she seems to have been commissioned by Shona for a present for David, and it's a drawing of the Platt family. And Shona doesn't really like it, and she says, "Well, we split up." And you can see Nina thinking, "Well, thank you for telling me before I finished this goddamn picture and framed it for
Thank
you."
goodness I didn't colour it in.
Poor Nina. David sees Maria and tells her that they're splitting up. Shona compares David to cheesecake, and she says, "I used to like them, but now I only really eat them every so often."
Well, she
I
said,
guess.
"People tell me I used to love cheesecake, so I eat cheesecake to try and get the same enjoyment out of them that I used to." So that's much the same way, like David. People say I used to like David, but actually he's just
I can take it or leave it.
Yeah.
But she is shoveling cheesecake in her face as she says this, so perhaps she's not quite as in touch with her feelings as she thinks she is. David goes into the Rovers, and Daisy sort of hones in on him when he reveals that he and Shona have split up. Then Gemma comes in, and Daisy does not like her at all.
This was the first meeting between Gemma and Daisy, kind of, in a way, sisters, but not particularly in any way.
Well, no, the relationship there is that Daisy is Jenny's stepdaughter, and Gemma and Jenny were both... Well, Jenny was fostered by Rita.
Yes.
And Gemma was...
She helped Rita across the road to get
got
that
a
Good
Good
Samaritan
Samaritan
award
award once by being friendly with Rita. So in a way, I mean, they did kind of bond when Rita had her brain tumour.
Yeah.
And they were both sort of Rita's daughters. So
yeah, Gemma looks on Rita as a kind of mother figure.
Yeah.
In the same way that Gemma does. Not Gemma, Jenny.
Jenny.
Well, not really in the same
but that
way,
doesn't really make you sisters. But Gemma thinks that they are now and wants to wear her shoes.
Yeah, doesn't Daisy make a sarky comment about Gemma's clothes, and Gemma's like, "Oh, you can wear them if you like."
Yeah.
And, she doesn't get.
No.
That Daisy is just being.
I
nasty
hate
cow.
this mean girl bullshit.
Gemma.
Can you just make a note of that? But I hate it when I don't think girls do this in real life. I really don't. I don't. People that just brazenly will tell you that they like your outfit, but they're taking the mick out of you. I don't think that happens as much as it does in fiction. I'm sorry.
And you went to an all-girls school, so you'd know about it if it did.
In our girls' school, we were all very frank and honest with one another. If you turned up with your uniform looking a bit crap, people would tell you. They wouldn't be like, "Oh my God, where did you get your amazing skirt from?" We'd be like, "Well, same place as you, Woolworths." So, she's being horrible to Gemma, and I don't know what we're supposed to think about that.
Nothing particularly, because Daisy is mysteriously absent from this story now, which is why you said that you reckon that David had a bit of Daisy Nookie.
Yeah, Daisy Nookie.
Which, it wouldn't surprise me.
I don't think so now.
Do you not?
No,
it just
because
felt
of what
like
happened on Friday.
Just because that's happened on Friday, they needed to have a feel-good ending to the Christmas episode. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if we find out in a week, 2 weeks, in a month or whatever that David and Daisy did get busy between the sheets. And that's, as much as I hate the idea of it, and I think, would they really do that? Well, David has shown in the past that, like many of the other men...
At the drop of a hat,
on the
as
street,
soon as they're on a break.
Yeah.
Because that's what he did with Emma.
Exactly, that's what happened with Emma. That's what happened with Adam and Carla.
Jump
it seems
in bed.
like, if you're in a relationship and you get out of it, literally, within minutes, the next woman that comes along, you can get them into bed somehow.
Not even that you're out of the relationship. You just say, perhaps we should break up. And then the next minute, it's like you're free and single now.
Yeah.
So anyway, Roy asks Shona how David makes her feel. And she says, he makes me feel safe. I feel loved. He makes me laugh. And he says, well, why don't you try again? So she wants to talk to him when he gets home, and he's not interested. And I can't remember where it comes up, because I don't think you've written it here, or maybe it happens on Friday, I don't know.
What?
But basically, it turns out that when she was asked these questions, are you happy? She answered them for how she was feeling at that precise second. And that's not how she feels all the time. But she didn't make that clear to David, and he didn't ask her any further questions. So when she said, "I'm not happy," it wasn't because she wasn't happy in general. It was just because she wasn't happy right then. And she's also saying that she was upset because she always says something wrong, or she's always in trouble, or she doesn't
She
know
says
what she's
this on
saying.
Friday. It was in the Victoria Garden scene, I think. And she says that at least when I'm with Roy, I'm not having to pretend to be someone else, and I can just act and be completely normal, whereas when I'm staying with you, I'm always trying to live up to this, Shona that everybody says was just so amazing.
Yeah. On Thursday, he says to Shona, David says, we're going to get social services to find somewhere for you to live. I will support you. And he talks about
They have a
Barney.
little chat about Barney the rabbit, just to set up Friday, basically.
Was this when he says the worst thing that's ever happened to me was when my rabbit died? And I was like, what about when your wife was stabbed to death and you cradled her corpse in the street crying to the sky? And that
it was the worst thing that had happened to him at the time. And I don't know I can't remember whether that was pre or post Hillman Canal diving, but...
So every single time anything's ever happened to him since then, he's like, at least this isn't as bad as that time Barney died. David reveals to Sarah and Nick...
I imagine he's just like got an internal ranking of all the bad things that have happened to him.
Yeah, Barney's
probably like
always
a top
number
50
one.
by now.
There was a bit... What was it?
What?
Oh, anyway, yeah. So David tells Sarah and Nick that they've split up, and they're like, this seems like a bad idea to me. Shona comes home. She's a bit cagey. She goes upstairs. She won't say what happened. On Friday, all the Platts are opening presents. There's a mysterious lump in the corner that David thinks is for the children, but it turns out to be for him. From Shona, it is a 6-foot rabbit with a bow tie that looks a bit phallic.
It did when David grabbed hold of it, and I think Jack Peacheva put this on his Instagram a couple of weeks ago when the preview pictures from this came out, and yeah, he grabs hold of this bunny's bow tie and
it makes a shape.
It definitely makes a shape. Yeah, go back and rewatch that if you want to see what we mean.
Shona and David are on the sofa and they're talking about Christmases past, and Shona says that
Shona's like, did it used to snow here before I got shot? And David's a bit like, well, yeah, well, kind of sometimes. Literally every other year it snows in Weatherfield. It's not like everywhere else in the country. It's almost guaranteed you're going to get some sort of snow.
Yeah. She says, I wish I'd seen it. I wish I could see a snowy Christmas, because to her, those aren't her memories. There's a bit of chaos going on when Lily comes screaming in the room because she's got a bead up her nose. Bloody Lily. They should just leave her at the hospital. They'll go to A&E, including the rabbit, which David says is definitely not coming. So as soon as he said that, you knew that the rabbit would be along for the ride. That was
really well done. And usually they don't jump from one story and then the next scene is the same story, do they? But this one is, it was the classic of, no way, that's not happening. And then the next, it's happened. It's really cheesy. And
it was Christmas.
But just the look that David gives, and he's like, happy flipping Christmas, and the fact that the rabbit's sitting there in the hospital with a mask over its muzzle.
I thought that was
well.
brilliant. The fact that it had a face mask on.
I thought it was very funny.
Shona's bored, so she gets a copy of Higher magazine, and she does a multiple choice love match compatibility quiz with David, and they realise that actually they have some things in common. But when it comes to what are your greatest fears, Shona says that hers is losing loved ones, and David, it's clowns. I think they say something. She says something like she's not lost anybody because she can't remember, whereas he has, and he thinks, you get over it, I guess.
Yeah, it's not
you know
so
what
bad.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
And clowns are scary.
I think that David just wasn't wanting to be open with his feelings.
Well, also,
I think it was a bit of
it was a bit of a confrontational question for Christmas Day for a man who has, like we said, lost a wife to a very violent crime to the person who he's talking to's son.
Well, they commented on the episode about, this ramped up quickly, didn't it? Because the questions start off with generic Christmas stuff, and then it goes onto the heavy stuff. And it was one of those things that it's like, it's when Corrie does stuff like that, I think that's not realistic. I don't think that a magazine would do that.
Oh, I don't
Just
think
the same way, even when Lily got a bead up her nose.
You don't read women's magazines very much.
I don't think she would get a bead up her nose.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Some of the things that happened, I was like,
well, that's stupid. Of all the things that happened,
this.
Michael, of all the things that happen on Christmas, those are the two things that are the most likely to have happened, and you're the one that has a problem with them. Children get stuff stuck up their nose all the time, especially beads.
All right. Do you want to tell the story about when you got something stuck up your nose? I don't
know
whether this has been on the podcast before.
I've said this before. Which
time
again? Anyway? When we were watching it, my mum says to me, you got something stuck up your nose. I was like, yeah, I know. Which time are you talking about?
Well, I'm thinking about the time that you had cotton wool stuck at your nose and then you put more cotton wool up there to try and get it down.
Well, yeah, I was little.
This is before she met me.
I thought, I was like, I don't know. I was definitely under the age of 10. And I thought I had found an amazing hack to pick my nose with cotton wool instead of using a tissue. And I pushed it all the way up, and then I couldn't get it back out. So
How
I
is
thought,
it a hack? Just that you keep the tissue up there and then you never have to...
no, I don't know, Michael. Listen, I've
Never need to blow your nose again because the cotton wool's
No,
up there
it
to
wasn't a
absorb
plan.
it.
No, I was going to pull it back out. So the idea is the cotton wool like fills your nostril cavity, and then you pull it, and then it brings all the bogies out with it, like some kind of like cleaning plug. So I put it up there, and I couldn't get it back out. So I was like, well, the only way to get this out now is to use another bit of cotton wool, really. So I put another one up there. Wouldn't you know it, that one wouldn't come out either. Pushing and pushing, and just managed to wedge it further up my nose. Got another bit, tried to do the same thing, and thought, this is bad, it's really not working, so I won't do that again. But now I feel pretty stupid, so I won't tell anybody I've done this, because I don't want them to tell me off for being an idiot. So I just keep this quiet. And then over several days, all of this packed up cotton wool began to fester in my nose until my parents and my grandparents could smell my horrible breath from all this infected cotton wool jammed inside my brain. And so they had to take me to the doctor, got a pair of pliers and started digging around and pulled out the most ridiculous quantity of cotton wool.
If they had had YouTube there and somebody at that time and somebody had filmed that would have got thousands of hits.
Yeah.
People love that sort of stuff. It's like the YouTube videos of people squeezing spots and stuff.
Oh, I hate that. I don't know.
Pushing out the blackheads that have been there for years.
Well, that was my story. I don't know why I had to tell that on this podcast, but
Christmas.
But yeah, I mean, children do stuff like that, Michael. You should know this. I guess that your children are a bit older than these ones.
Yes.
And also, women's magazine, not that Hire specifically seems to be a women's magazine, just a gossip magazine, which is aimed at women. But they do weird questionnaires.
All right.
Yeah, when was the last time you did a love match compatibility
No,
quiz?
there were a few things in this week's episode that I thought, I don't buy this. It's just in there for a joke.
Of course. But they're talking about the wedding and she doesn't remember it and she's a bit upset. Then Aggie, he's working on Christmas Day.
She's single-handedly running the NHS on the Christmas Day, I think, Aggie.
She comes to get Lily so she can have this bead removed, and Lily was being a bit difficult and she won't let Aggie get in there, so I can't remember what happens, but Lily and Shona are left by themselves and Shona's making her laugh.
She says, what's the joke that she tells? What's silent and smells like carrots? Rabbit trump.
And in my mind, I just imagined a rabbit that was orange with a big puffy blonde hair going, fig news.
Well, eventually, Aggie's allowed to have an investigate up her nose, and then I like how the camera did this. It kind of pans away from Aggie and Lily just as she's about to get in there, so that Lorna didn't actually have to go anywhere near.
There was
young Lily
another, yeah, there were a few really good.
And then Shona's like, What's that? That smells like carrots.
Yeah.
And then I think Barney too's just guffed. So northern. And then David's there listening out in the corridor, isn't he? And it was just some
and
nice
he obviously from
shots.
this realises that Shona, despite what her flaws, which are that she can't remember anything, she's still really, really great with the kids.
Yeah.
And it could be a lot worse. So, that's an endearing quality to him, isn't it?
Mm.
Shona then sees David getting glühwein from Daisy, and they're kind of flirting with each other.
This is one of the reasons, I suppose, why I thought that the Daisy Nookie didn't happen, because I would have thought they might have mentioned it or alluded to something happening.
I think the fact they were
following
flirting
day.
maybe might have been. I don't know. But yeah, so she's immediately starts having a go at both of them, saying, listen, why don't you just break up with me now so you can get together with little Miss Mooseface? And Daisy says, these are reindeer antlers. And Shona's like, I know, I'm brain damaged, not stupid. She walked off. Then there's Vicky Garden scenes, and this is when Shona's talking about what you said before about I can be myself when I live with Roy, because I'm not trying to be anyone else or live up to anything. And David says, well, maybe if we can't be happy all the time, there's no point in trying to do this at all. And then they start to talk about how they're both messed up and he doesn't know how he'll cope without her, and they do make each other happy, and really you can't be happy all the time anyway. So why are they splitting up?
Yeah, David says things are hard.
And Shona says life is hard. We need to buckle down and keep going through it together. And he says, I still love you, and I've got an idea how I can prove it. So they have this really gorgeous scene where they all go to the factory. David makes Shona wear a veil, and he talks her through what happened at the wedding, which was another one of these things where Mum and Dad were watching this, and David was explaining the situation around how they got married, and it's like the show. It was like the show knew how stupid these things are, and maybe the person who wrote the script was thinking, I bet there are people explaining things like this to their relatives on Christmas Day, because he was talking her through, like, I just got out of prison, I was wearing my prison tracksuit, blah 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 blah.
Oh, and he does his little speech about donut.
Oh yeah.
Don't look at the hole or whatever.
When something.
Let this be your goal. Look at the donut, not the hole.
Or something like that. I thought it was silly at the time. It felt more appropriate this time I heard the story. There was fairy lights everywhere.
I don't know how he managed to get fairy lights. Literally every inch of wall in the factory was covered in these big fairy lights.
I think there's been a shortage of fairy lights this year. I think people have gone out a bit more trying to decorate their houses than they used to. So that doesn't make any sense. And and then they had this. Yeah, he just recreated it, and it was really fun and nice. And
it was
sweet,
really sweet,
and it was a sense of humour about it. And David was charming.
Jack P. Shepherd is just sometimes so effortlessly cool. Like there was one bit where he kind of turns around and looks at her and gives this smile, and it's like, oh, he's such a charmer.
It really
almost won me over, Jack.
Oh my, I will.
It was just it was lovely.
And Shona was enchanted, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And she got to relive this moment that she had thought was lost forever in her memory. And it was like they got married again, wasn't it?
Yeah, so now she'll be able to remember that.
Yes. And it's like he accepted her for who she was and said, I'd marry you again. And here we go, let's do it. And then it all ends in a silly string fight where they run through the factory outside into the garden.
The refrain of "All I Want for Christmas Is You," which is my favourite Christmas
song by Mariah Carey, and then it begins to snow.
Of course.
And Shona standing in the garden with her veil on, hands to her face, looking into the sky as the snowflakes fall, and we end the episode on a
totally not CG.
What's the end of the episode?
Yeah.
I really thought that was so sweet and nice and low key. And I tell you another thing. Doesn't this again show you that character moments are way better than some of the stunts?
I was a whole lot more invested in that than any of the Carrie, Rick,
I'm not talking
Maria
specifically
thing.
about that, because I really enjoyed that, but I think they've done a really good job on that. I know you don't, but in the Gary and stuff of building up a story that's based on characters. But what I'm saying is, last year we had Robert shot to death on the pavement outside of the Rovers.
Oh, that was good.
It was good, but I think this will make a better Christmas Day episode memory to me than Robert getting shot, because nobody remembered the next week. Nobody bloody remembered that Robert was dead. Whereas this story feels like it was a beginning of a new chapter for Shona and David.
Yeah, it could have come across as ridiculously cheesy.
I'm sure some people thought it was cheesy.
But I was watching it thinking, no, I'm enjoying this actually.
Sweet. This is sweet.
And then that was when they had Aggie coming home, and Ed raises a glass to her, and they have Yasmin looking out the window like, what's going on here?
Oh, she looks out the window and she sees them fighting and smiles. Yeah.
And David makes a line about Gail's going to have to clean all this up in the morning. That was quite funny. So that was the end of the Christmas episode. So very nice ending, I thought. Nice bit of coziness on Christmas Day. So it's not all dark and murderous and people out to get each other and drop each other which I just didn't.
The thing I was going to mention earlier about Shona blurting stuff out was when David was saying something. What did he say? And then she said, like, getting raped and Kylie getting stabbed or something like that.
Yeah, he'd said, I can't remember. He's talking about some bad memories or whatever, and then she very bluntly says, yeah, like getting raped and Kylie getting stabbed, and David's delivery of like, Yes. I can't
Yeah.
do it, but the way he said it.
Oh, he was so good. There was so really great performances again, really great. And we often praise characters for their comedy or their dramatic performances on Coronation Street. But this was kind of like somewhere in between, wasn't it? This was like just a sweet...
Yeah, nice bit of both.
And there's not really very many romantic scenes that I buy, personally, on the show. But this was one of the best romance stories that there's been for years on Coronation Street. And you wouldn't have necessarily picked Jack P. Shepherd as the character of David to play a romantic storyline. I just wonder
what's going to happen next.
But Shona and David together on Christmas Day, one of the best romantic stories I've seen for a long time.
Is it going to be just for Christmas, though? Are they going to go back to next week?
I don't know.
Not being able to live with each other? Is she going to be putting her foot in it again, and he's going to say, oh, maybe we need to split up again?
There's definitely a reason why Daisy's involved.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And if it was just for Christmas flirting and Shona telling her to do one, was it like to establish that Shona's still emotionally invested in this relationship, and it helped David to realise that she must have feelings for him if she's that jealous about them talking to each other? Was it for that reason alone? I don't know. Daisy's definitely not done a lot of things, but one of the things that she has done is to let David know that she quite fancies him. I don't really want that complication in the story.
I don't need that.
I feel like this
if that's
is like
over
the
now,
end.
then good.
Yeah, I feel like this is a really nice end point.
Yeah, I don't know what to think of Daisy at the moment. She's starting to feel a little bit one-dimensional to me.
Yeah,
and I'm hoping that come New Year. I mean, we're going to have Johnny's trial coming up soon, aren't we? And I don't think I've written notes or anything about it here, but we had one or two other scenes of... Oh, there was that scene where Jenny was doing her singing with her AirPods in the Rovers, wasn't she?
Yeah.
And then Johnny says to her, oh, we'll have Christmas. And she's like, I don't want to talk about your trial again. So that's
shout
obviously
out to
coming
Sally Ann
up.
Matthews there for doing a very nice little a cappella performance of a
They
song.
totally
I
should
don't
have
know
had the
what it
kiss the day goodbye.
What?
That that other song, the song that Jenny is famed for singing to Alec Gilroy in the 80s. They should have had her doing that just as a bit of an in joke. Yeah, and there was one point as well where Daisy mentions to someone about she needs to get rid of that Johnny, his trial's coming up. But so she's obviously going to be causing mischief there, but I don't know when exactly that's going to be. It feels like it's imminent, but this story has been treading water for month and a half or so now.
Well,
with Johnny trying to bring it up and Jenny saying, no, let's not talk about it. I'd almost rather that they just didn't mention it until it was going to start.
Well, you then complain that things don't get established.
Well,
you complain when things get...
What do you think is going to happen with it? Is he going to get sent down or not?
I think he's going to get a suspended sentence.
It feels
to me like, listen, people have been let out of prison in many different countries because of coronavirus. I don't think we're any exception. I don't think they want custodial sentences for people who... I mean, I don't think it wasn't a violent crime from his participation in it, was it?
He ran into someone with his car. That seems pretty violent to me. I know he wasn't the one that stamped over him.
I know, but that was an accident, wasn't it? I don't know. What I'm saying is that happened so long ago. He hasn't done anything like it since. I just think that the law can sometimes give people a bit more leeway than you think it does. And if I was a judge and I'm looking at a guy who's got MS during a pandemic who committed a crime so long ago and hasn't done anything since, I would say you really have to be punished for this, but I can't put you in prison. Custodial sentences aren't the only option.
Maybe it's just going to be like, it was 2 years ago that Jenny was facing her trial, wasn't it? And in the end, they just dropped it.
They went, this is boring.
Never mind. Maybe Johnny will be lucky and that'll happen to him. But yeah, Daisy's going to be
I don't think that she's going anywhere. I don't think he's going anywhere, is all I'm saying.
It just feels like Johnny's done so little this year. It feels like he's so low down on the character appearance list. It wouldn't surprise me if he did just slip away. And it'd be a shame if he did, because I think they've done a bit of a number on his character this year.
Yeah, me too.
Made him a bit too...
He's pathetic.
Yeah, basically. And I'd like to see him and Jenny coming back from this as a united front.
He came into the show as like a big, brash factory boss asserting his dominance, saying, look, you, Aidan, you stole money off me. This is my factory now. I'm taking charge. Telling people what to do. Very authoritative. Bit of a catch for Jenny. The big, rich guy coming in.
He's a shadow of his former self now.
He's a snivelling, pathetic, whiny, regretful old man who, if you blew on him, he'd fall over.
Yeah, it's not what I want as a Rover's landlord.
I understand that he has MS, but I think that there's, you know, it's not down to people in real life to have to battle their illnesses with dignity so other people don't feel bad about it. But in a television show, I feel like it feels sad to me if you've got MS and you're watching Johnny and you're thinking, maybe I think I can do too much and perhaps I should be more like Johnny, like scared and try and hide myself away. It doesn't feel like a really nice, you know, and there's definitely like inspiration porn and things to say about, you know, people with illnesses and disabilities aren't your kind of pets or like inspiration stories for you to feel good about yourself and, you know, to get off on like the happy feeling of somebody overcoming the odds. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say that we talk about representation on the show and how when somebody is like you, it makes you more interested and it also gives you, I don't know, something like a communally shared experience that you feel kinship with that person and it makes you feel seen to have somebody like you on the television. I don't think many people are like looking to Coronation Street to help them through their MS diagnosis because of Johnny, just because of what he's turned into. I want him to overcome it. I want this to be a story of inspiration, not a story that, you know, feels hopeless and sad. Yeah,
I mean, if Jenny comes out more empowered from him and she has to take sole charge of the Rovers or something, maybe that was something that I'm hoping might happen
to watch, if Johnny ends up going into prison. I mean, if he does get a custodial sentence, I'm sure it won't be for very long. I'm sure it'll be just a few months. But I think that could be the making of Jenny, because at the moment she's also floundering a little bit. She's in denial. She won't face her demons head on. She's being a bit weak.
Yeah, no, she is. She's not supporting Johnny. And she's a bit of a pushover, and she's a bit blind to Daisy's Machiavellian streak as well.
I think she thinks she's supporting Johnny by not talking about it, but she isn't.
Anyway, back to the David stuff, and before we move on, I wanted to talk about the fact that he has now supposedly dropped this hate campaign against Ray, which was a story that was, you know, surprisingly absent this week. Considering where we've just been a couple of weeks ago with the diggers, and now things seem to have gone quiet. And was it only last week that Debbie was saying, "Let's do our plan B. Let's get let's get the ball rolling."
David was never in a particularly strong position to oppose Ray's plans anyway. So,
well, it's not going to stop everyone else anyway, is it?
No, I think Ray was right to use because I don't think he could have got much out of getting Shona and Simon in trouble. It would have just made everyone else hate him just as more than they already did. So I think Ray was right to use that as a trump card to get David to back off of him. But he still has many other people to oppose him. Yeah. And David wasn't the ringleader anyway.
No, definitely not. Right, next story then. So Leanne and Nick and all that stuff. So Monday, Nick is going back to work. He's getting his back to work suit on. Leanne's decided that today's the day she's going to try and tidy up Oliver's room. It's probably just covered in all her snotty tissues from all the crying that she's done in the last few weeks. Toyah is there, and she has got her pomegranate top on.
Why did you call it the pomegranate top?
I thought that you called it the pomegranate top.
Oh, I don't know.
It's that colour. It's a spiky... We haven't seen that since the factory collapse, I thought. Anyway...
I love that.
He tells Toyah that he doesn't think that Leanne should be left alone. Am I right to be worried about this? And Toyah's like, don't worry. She needs to have time on her own. It's going to be okay. And then Natasha comes in all frantic. Sam's gone missing. Meanwhile, Leanne is totally not coping over in the lounge back at home. She's reading Mr. Tickle, having a cry to herself. She's having a moment. Meanwhile, Nick and Toyah and Natasha have all split up to try and locate Sam. Toya's going to check on Victoria Gardens, which I think is probably the most sensible suggestion, because generally when people go missing at the moment, that's where they turn
They're
up.
being moody.
Natasha leaves another answer phone message on Sam's phone, and they eventually run to Gail, who's got Sam. Apparently Sam had told her that Natasha had dropped him off at the house, but it's all lies. He's just trying to get away from his mum. So he gets a bit of a stern talking to back at number 8, and this is when Natasha is forced to admit to Nick the reason that Sam's upset and ran off is because she has got a new salon in London on Christmas Eve, no less. She's got to move down there, drop everything, and Sam's coming with. Sam is not happy with either the pollution levels or the distance from Weatherfield.
It's
when it
only a
comes to
few
London.
months, though, she says.
It's 3 months, yeah. That she says that
Got to help set it up.
Set it up for 3 months,
Just
and then she
like-
can come back to Weatherfield again.
Just like Raquel had to do.
Well, this I don't think on Monday we knew that. It felt like it was a lot more final then. And Sam's telling Natasha that she's selfish because he wants to stay. He's only just reconnected with his dad. Nick's sitting on the fence about this, and Sam leaves without even looking at his dad. So Nick goes back home later. Leanne has not been able to face clearing Oliver's stuff after all. Nick pops
I call
out,
it lazy.
and Leanne answers Nick's phone call from Sam, who proceeds to cry down the phone to Leanne about the situation that he's got himself into. And Leanne says, "Look, Nick, you need to tell Sam a firm no. You can't just let him stay here.
I was really surprised by this.
You've only just got to know him. His family, i.e. his mum, is moving to London, and you can't leave him hanging."
I was really surprised by this because I was expecting some twee thing of like Leanne saying, "Nick, you have to let him stay with us," and blah 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 blah. But she was like, "Oh my!" Like when she said, "Nick, Sam's just been on the phone and he's crying about the fact he has to move to London," and then she says, "You got to tell him he can't live with us," which I thought was like she's still being really honest, but also a tiny bit of a bitch.
Wouldn't have her any other way. He says, "Look, I admit I want Sam to stay with us if it is possible, but I know you wouldn't be able to face it, Leanne. It's too soon."
He's basically telling Leanne, "I would pick you over my son."
Yeah, basically.
Which she doesn't really get. I don't think she's too much in grieving and she's too worried about herself to really ponder the enormity of what he's actually saying to her. I don't think she appreciates this as much as she should do, but Nick is like, "Yeah, I know that you couldn't."
Yeah, and then Nick and Sam decide that they're going to have a early Christmas day together on Wednesday. So he's got the Christmas jitters come Wednesday morning. Leanne steps in with her elite gift wrapping skills.
This annoyed me. This really annoyed me.
What? This is when
Nick goes, "Oh, do girls have a special Christmas
teach?
wrapping, gift wrapping lesson that boys don't have?"
I thought that was funny.
I know you thought that was funny. It's not really funny. It's another example of how men don't have any expectations put upon
Tarnish
them.
us all with the same brush. I might be useless, but I'm sure there's plenty of fantastic male gift wrappers.
I'm sure there
listening.
are, exactly. It's not genetic, it's not a secret lesson. All you have to do is give a crap about what you're doing and have people expect you to be good at stuff. Women don't want to be good at everything domestic. We just always get left with it because men are doing something they think is more important. It really annoyed me. It was really sexist. I know it was supposed to be a silly joke and I'm taking it the wrong way, but it really, really bothered me.
Why didn't
You
write
can learn to wrap a present yourself, Nick. There's nothing inherently gendered about wrapping presents. You've just decided that it's beneath you.
I really liked Leanne on the beginning of Wednesday's episode.
And I know
with
he
the
was
amount-
I know he was making a joke and he was upset and he was worried. And he was obviously trying to do something and he was more nervous than he would have been, but I know he's not the only man who has made a joke along these lines. It's just not funny.
Yeah, I was saying I really appreciated Leanne on Wednesday because despite everything that she's gone through, she does her best, doesn't she, to help make this early Christmas day for Sam really special.
I mean, despite what I just said, there is no denying that most of these chores to prepare for Christmas fall upon, in many households, the head of the main woman or the group of women who were involved. Many men, as you say, do all these things.
She's wrapped all the presents. She's done the Christmas dinner.
This was like a symbolic.
Decorations.
She was being symbolically the mother.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, she left before they could actually enjoy all of the fruits of her labour.
Yeah, it wasn't a Christmas day for her. She was just getting it set up, and I think she's about to start crying. So
this was an act of love and service for Nick and Sam, and in a way, it was also for Ollie because he couldn't be there, so she would have been doing this.
Yeah,
and she didn't have to because Ollie died, but then she got an opportunity to express her love through these kind of rituals of Christmas, which, you know, families. So I mean, and in this country, unfortunately, there were families that couldn't do this at Christmas because they couldn't be with their relatives because some people were in lockdown before Christmas Day. So I think for some people this was even more poignant.
Can you imagine just how gut-wrenching it had been if Ollie had clung on to life for a little bit longer and Leanne would have decorated the hospital room with streamers and a little Christmas tree up and angels and things.
This is why I'm glad they didn't do that, because we, as a country, we didn't need that to be added onto Christmas. We're already experiencing it. There are people with empty chairs this Christmas because their relatives have died because of coronavirus. We don't need to have it rammed into our skulls by Coronation Street. So they did really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
I thought so as well. Well, Leanne started off well, but then when she comes back later, she goes back to her normal Mardy self when she discovers that Sam has tinkered about with Ollie's music box, which was this special one, wasn't it, that played the tune that she wanted George to
play at the funeral,
and she goes right off on one.
Well, the negligence of Nick as a parent here to just let Sam demolish this thing that is precious. He knows it's precious to Leanne. He shouldn't have let her.
He said, I should have kept more of an eye on him, but I really don't think he had an excuse.
What else are you doing?
I joke that it was like Leanne was back to showing her true colours again and going off on one, but I think that she was perfectly entitled and to have reacted in the way she did. And I know it's Sam, and I know Sam's cute, and I know he's a kid, and can't blame kids that always know what they're doing.
Well, he didn't break it.
He didn't break it.
He said he would fix it.
I think that he was being a bit rude for taking apart something without asking. And
Nick was showing he's not really ready to be a full-time dad because he wasn't paying attention.
Yeah,
I know he was tidying up, but if you've only got a limited amount of time with your child, you could spend it with them or you could spend it tidying up.
Yeah.
The tidying's not going anywhere.
So Leanne later on admits that she overreacted to Nick, but I honestly don't think that she did. I think that Sam maybe deserves a bit of a telling off.
He needs boundaries. He's smart and clever and sweet and cool and funny, but he's still a kid.
You can't just take apart things that you fancy, that you're interested in. Anyway, she admits to Nick that I'm robbing you of a chance to be a dad here. You should move out. And you'll be able to have Sam stay with you.
Move out of your flat.
And Nick's like, I don't think that's quite what I was going for. So Leanne says, look, Nick, right, you need to ask Natasha if Sam can stay with you for a while she's in London. And then
Why don't I move out?
I'll move out if you want to. And then says, no, you move out. You can rent somewhere, actually. You're a great dad. Go and ask Natasha. And so he does. And unsurprisingly, although I think Nick was caught a bit off guard by this, Natasha's like, no, he's coming with me. And Nick says, oh, come on, think about it. You don't have Sam going, look how annoying he is. You don't want to have Sam going there with you. It's only 3 months after all. And then she says, okay, then, that's fine. You can look after my son. Give me a bit of time off or something. I don't know what excuse that she comes up with in her mind for letting this, not stranger, look after the son, but somebody who was not a part of her life, 3 months ago. Yeah, and now she's happy to let them look after him for another 3 months. It didn't feel quite right with me.
And then he says, let him live with me, and then you can work remotely from Weatherfield.
She that's what she said. Yeah, after this 3 months.
I'm not even gonna go into how you work remotely for a nail salon.
I don't know. She's just managing it. She doesn't actually paint the nails.
I'm sure she is, but just the hilarious thought of like you sitting at home with a webcam in front of you and a nail technician on the other end of the camera going, right, now just pick up the nail polish and just paint your thumbnail. Good. Now paint your next fingernail. And you're like, why am I paying you £12.50 for this when I'm doing it all myself?
This is a good opportunity for
And then the person says, get anywhere nice on your holidays this year. We're not. No one is. Shut up.
This is a perfect opportunity for nail technicians to expand their business in Weatherfield at the moment, because it's just last year that the evil nail salonist Rachel was taken down for her part in the slavery
Slave
scandal.
trade,
So there's
yeah.
probably a whole bunch of empty nail salons just waiting for Natasha to move into at the moment.
Why is she going to London?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, Nick goes home, tells Leanne and says, well, we're actually going to stay in Natasha's flat, so you're all right to stay here. And she seems a little bit
weirded out,
jealous about this, that maybe Natasha is taking her place in Nick's heart. I don't know.
It makes total sense that they go and stay in Natasha's flat because that's where Sam's used to. And no matter how clever Sam is, he is still a little boy, and too much upheaval, especially during this time, would be a bit much for him, I think.
Well, I guess it's also nearby his school as well. And just for practical reasons, it makes more sense for him to be living there.
Where he is, yeah.
Anyway, Thursday, Toyah brings Leanne and Misaka around, basically as an excuse to check up that she's okay. And she's also got some news that a baby is coming over. Last week we found out that she'd been approved for fostering, and this new baby Mason is going to be coming around soon because his mum needs an operation. It's going to be one night only deal. How exciting is that? Leanne is a bit knocked for six by this, because even though she gave Toyah her permission, not that she needed it, but to carry on with the
Her
fostering.
blessing.
Yeah, the blessing. I think that she didn't maybe expect it to happen so soon, or when she's faced with the realities of my sister is going to have a little baby and I've just lost my 3-year-old. It's
Bit much.
It's all very well and saying it's okay, but to actually live it, that's another matter entirely. So she says, right, I can't do Christmas here. I'm going to bog off to France.
Well, she tells Nick this.
Yeah, she tells Leanne.
But she's lying.
Yeah, she is. Well, although she tells Toyah as well, because Toyah's under the impression that Leanne's in France on Friday, but actually she's just sitting around in a flat moping to a sad Christmas song about blue Christmas, something.
I can't believe she's missing out on all that amazing French Christmas food. Like foie gras and crevettes.
New Year is the place to go. No, Epiphany is the place to go to. Is the time to go to France. That's when they have their galette de roi.
Yeah.
Friday, Christmas. So this wasn't particularly Nick and Sam stuff, was it? It was all Toyah and Imran who were enjoying their cute Christmas morning with baby Mason.
Oh, they don't know what they're doing, and it's sweet.
They've got no idea what they're doing. The baby's there in the crib. Of course, there's no opportunity because of filming restrictions to show them hugging the child when it's crying or anything. There's lots of shots of Toyah looking into the crib, cuts to shots of baby in a crib, which could very well be anywhere. But yeah, it was all very sweet, and Imran is particularly loved up by it. And there's a bit where does Toyah say, "Oh yeah, I forgot Merry Christmas," and Imran's like, "Oh, Merry Christmas."
He holds his hand to his chest and he goes, "Merry Christmas," and then they say, "Oh, this is going to be his best Christmas," and Toyah's like, "It's his first Christmas." Oh, it was so her heartbreaking look when she says that, and they say they're going to make it his best Christmas, but they both know he won't remember they ever existed, and I think that's sad as well. I think they know that they're like like Christmas ghosts almost. Like he's never going to know unless somebody tells him. He will never know he was there.
Well, Imran wants to give him something to remember by buying this big walker buggy thing that he spends the rest of the episode moaning about not being able to put together. I thought
this was so sweet.
Where it turns out that all Mason really wants is a plastic bottle, because wise woman Gemma comes round to offer her advice to
her experience.
Which includes storing a dummy in your bra.
I thought this was just really... This was like one of those archetypal stories about new parents versus experienced parents, where Toyah and Imran were like, "Oh, what do we do with the baby? He's crying. We don't want to give him a dummy." And then Gemma comes in and she fishes a dummy out of her bra and shoves it in the baby's mouth. And they're both horrified because it's like, "You should sterilise it, you're going to kill him." And Gemma's like, "Nah, I've tried killing my 4, they're still alive."
Tried setting them on fire that one time.
Just this like... she says give him a plastic bottle because my kids love it.
As much as I complain about Gemma on this podcast, I thought that scene, that was
a really good demonstration of how Gemma can still be a good character.
Yeah, and she told him about her vlog and everything, didn't she?
Oh yeah, she said, "Don't you know all this? It's all on my vlog." I just thought that Toyah and Imran are like, ultimate helicopter parents, aren't they? You could tell if they actually had a kid together, they'd be in their business all the time. And the kid would be like playing the violin at the age of 6, probably. I'm surprised Mason didn't come out crying in French.
Toyah gets a little bit teary later after she inexplicably calls Mason Oliver.
Yeah.
Just to pull on the heartstrings. I don't think she actually would have done that, but never mind.
Sometimes I call Abby Safi.
And they basically they
well,
just agree
like,
that
don't worry about it. It's okay. It's our first to go.
It's all right to get things wrong.
It's okay to get things wrong. But
it's all right if we kill off this one.
Like,
try again. They give us another one.
Doesn't matter.
Anyway, it turns out that the operation that this mum had is due to have has been pushed back, so they're going to be looking after Mason for a little bit longer. So isn't that lovely, everybody? And we end the episode with Toyah leaving a message on Leanne's answer phone, thinking that she's phoning her in France, but actually she's alone in her flat.
Yeah.
Crying a little heart out.
Being sad.
It doesn't the ringtone change if you're phoning up France? Shouldn't Toyah have noticed? Hang on a minute.
She's too loved up by her baby Mason.
Oh, okay.
I thought this was so adorable and sweet.
I wish
there was
sweet.
More of it.
I don't know what more there needed to be.
I know.
And I was kind of before I went into the Christmas episode, I knew that this was going to happen because I'd seen a picture of Toyah staring into the crib, and I thought, oh, this is going to be the heartwarming, lovey-dovey tale that is balances out all the dark sadness of the Gary, Rick, Maria, Sarah, Adam stuff. But actually, it was just a little bit of it, wasn't it? And it was the David and Shona that had most of the heart of the episode. I don't know what more they could have done, really.
I'm surprised they didn't give them a fake baby to hold. That's the only thing I'm going to say. Because it was obvious that there was no baby. But I don't think that, apart from them having a fake baby to cuddle, I don't know what else they could really have done. I think they did an all right job. I don't think people are going to be watching it going, oh no, it's obvious that, there's no baby in that scene. I think people understand that they couldn't do it. I just really find it utterly adorable when people are excited and love having a baby around. Even though I can't relate to it really, I think it's amazing and beautiful, and I wish I could feel that way because, you can get them for free, can't you?
Well, it's particularly sweet for Toyah, considering that she's been back in the show for 4 years now, and it's been long enough to legitimately be her life's ambition.
Get
a kid.
It is, yeah. But it is
it's tragic that she can't keep him.
There's an undercurrent of tragedy because this is a sort of a temporary situation. I just keep thinking about the mum. How would you feel if you were the poor mum who had an operation on Christmas Day? Very implausible for a start. And then it gets pushed back, and you want your baby. You want your baby. If you were a new mum,
you'd feel gutted that you wouldn't get to share your baby's first Christmas with her.
Yeah, and she's got no one else. I feel really bad for this unknown mother.
Yeah,
who's had to put her trust in these two strangers. Luckily,
one of them's a lawyer. Very trustworthy.
She's got like a really good pair of people to look after the baby, and it really is like one of those situations where it's the same as if you have a baby and you leave the hospital and you're like, why the hell are they letting me have this baby? I don't know what I'm doing. How is it not going to die? Why have you entrusted me with this precious thing without any knowledge? But you muddle your way through, don't you?
It was very sweet, and it's probably going to be sad when Mason goes back next week.
Oh, Toyah will cry.
I still wonder about this theory that people are saying that they're eventually going to end up fostering R. Kelly once it finally.
I bloody hope not, because I hate that.
Finally
girl.
Comes out that Rick's dead.
And how old is she? Like 16?
Yeah, at least it won't be for long if it happens.
Oh God, she's a monster.
Wouldn't surprise me. She's we haven't warmed to her.
I hate her so much. I don't hate lots of characters. I really hate.
I think we're going to have to get used to her. I don't think she's going anywhere yet.
She's such a little brat.
Paul, what's his story? Beginning of the week, Gemma.
Oh well, wouldn't you know?
Todd's been meddling. I don't think this story particularly moved very far this week.
No, Billy can see something's bothering Paul because he's having his secret liaisons with this child that he's not supposed to know or contact outside of work, but he's given him his number.
He's as bad as Craig, isn't he, Paul?
I know.
I shouldn't be doing this, but because I'm such a nice guy,
because I'm an exceptional person, and all the rules don't apply to me. So Billy's like, "What's wrong?" And Paul's like, "Nothing." Then at work, Todd asks him about Will, And Paul feels bad about not telling Billy. And Todd says, why don't you get him a nice meal or something? So later on, Paul tells Todd he sorted a night in with Billy. So Todd then scurries off to phone Will up and tell him to ruin it. So Will calls Paul, who says, no, I can't meet you. Where do you want to meet up?
Basically.
So he says, Todd, cover me at work. So Todd says, I'll tell Billy too. Let's think of an idea. Shall we say that your friend's been in a car crash? And Paul's like, great idea. And Todd's like, don't worry, stupid. I'll sort it all out. So Todd goes to tell Billy, Paul's mate's been in a car crash. And Billy's like, oh, that's sad because we were supposed to have dinner together. Do you want to have pizza with us? And he's like, no, don't worry about it. And leaves them. So
I wondered whether Todd would tell Billy a different story.
Yeah,
so then when Paul came back and said, oh, he's been in a car crash, and Billy's like, hang on a minute, Todd says that
I thought
you had an emergency dentist appointment.
Todd's being very clever, and this is now the second time that he's been invited to share an evening with them and has turned it down to pretend that that's not what his end goal is. Paul meets Will in the Ginnel. He says, my stepdad's hurt my mum, but she doesn't want an ambulance. Billy calls Paul. Paul says, I'm at the hospital, and then Paul says to Will, you should really call the police. So he finally manages to convince him to go to the police station after they've gone to get some chicken or something. Billy goes to the pub, sees Daisy, who's bad-mouthing Johnny, which is what you mentioned earlier. Yeah. And Todd comes in and talks about how it's a shame about Paul. And Billy's like, no, I'm proud of him. But you can tell he's annoyed that he's not there. Todd tells Billy that he was always good about bringing out the best in people and gives him a smile like, oh, you turned me into a model citizen.
Yeah.
So Paul and Will get to the police station, and Will says, I'll do it by myself, you don't need to come in with me. So goes in, tells the copper that his phone's missing, sits down, gives Paul the thumbs up, Paul buggers off, and then Will runs out. He goes, I found it in my pocket, and runs away.
He doesn't let a second pass, does he?
No, he literally runs out as Paul's walking down the road. If Paul turned around, he would have seen Will running away.
Yeah.
So Paul comes back home and Billy's asking him questions and Paul's like, regardless of the fact that this was such a serious incident that I had to leave work to attend to it, that I don't want to talk about it, I'm not going to tell you any details. So on Wednesday, Will's on the phone again, he's trying to get Paul to help him, so Paul has to take the afternoon off. Sarah lets him take the half a day. Todd says to Paul that he should probably tell Billy, but don't mention the fact that you know Todd. So Paul comes home, tells Billy about it. He's dressed up as Father Christmas for whatever reason.
This is one of those things that it's like, did they... What was the point? Why did they get Daniel Brocklebank dressed up as Father Christmas just for like one or two scenes?
Well, he's got to wear a costume of some sort. Why not a Father Christmas one?
And it's just making me think, like, they really don't know anything about what an archdeacon does. I'm not saying that I do, but I'm not noticing anything different in Billy's behaviour or work.
I don't really
anything.
think that Christians need to spread the message of Father Christmas at Christmas. I think that Father Christmas's PR agency has got that one tied up. If he's going to dress up as anything, it should be like one of the three wise men or something that's actually to do with the nativity story. Yes. Or something that has been overlooked about the Christian story about Christmas. Not bloody Father Christmas. So Billy's like, oh, wish you told me sooner, right? It's very upsetting. And then when he finds out that Todd knows, he literally walks out.
Yeah, he gets his knickers in a twist, doesn't he, Billy? The fact that Paul and Todd have been having secret meetings.
He knows exactly what Todd's up to. Yeah. He's been to a grotto where he was Father Christmas. He comes back and he says, why do you even think Todd's got a job volunteering there? Do you think it's because he likes helping people? No. If he's told you it's because he cares, he's lying. He's livid. He's like, you better watch out because Todd is way more clever and manipulative than you even understand. You think he's nice? He is not. All of this is a bunch of lies and I don't know what he's up to, but I know that it's all for Todd and for nobody else. And Paul's not really getting this.
They have another scene, it was a fairly superfluous scene on Thursday where Billy reiterates that message.
I know what
doesn't he?
Todd's like. Don't trust him.
Yeah.
So now it makes, like, now Billy's clearly said, this is what's happening. Makes me wonder whether Todd was really after Paul or Billy. It feels to me like he's never going to get Billy on his side, but he might be able to win Paul over.
I don't think he's really interested in Paul. I think he thinks that Paul is too thick for him.
No, I know, but I think he might, if he realises that there's no way he's going to get with Billy, because Billy's still got his number and knows that he's...
I think he might try to get Billy. Billy will give him the pushback. And
then I think he'll go Paul... I'll go with Paul.
Yeah, but not because... Yeah, to get Billy back.
To prove to
break
him
Billy's
that I'm
heart.
so great that I can do what I like and you can't stop me.
Yeah. But I hope it happens soon. And I was definitely expecting there to be some kind of Christmas fireworks. And, on Christmas Day, I thought, well, if Billy's been... if they made a point of saying that Billy has been called in to do this sermon on Christmas Day, they didn't need to have that.
No, I know. But you said that... Well, you said I was expecting this, but you kept moaning about it, the possibility of it happening. So... Are you happy that it didn't?
Well, no, I mean, because something's still going to happen, isn't it? It's not like the storyline's been dropped.
Okay.
I thought, I'm maybe thinking back on it, it might have been quite exciting to have had this on Christmas Day, but we just put it aside for another week.
I just think it's... I'm really happy that Billy's not gullible and stupid and, willing to give Todd the benefit of the doubt. I think it would have been easy for the writers to have written Billy as, I'm a forgiving Christian. I'm going to let him walk all over me. Because there's definitely a difference between...
He must have seen the error of his ways.
There's definitely a difference between being a Christian and forgiving somebody of their sins and letting them take advantage of you continuously, and being a Christian, forgiving people of their sins and saying, yeah, but you ain't doing it again.
Yeah. But I think, well...
This is what they missed.
This
is kind of what they missed with Sophie a lot of the time with her Christian attitude, is that she was always very vengeful. She was very Old Testament, whereas Billy is definitely like a bit like he's keeping Todd at an arm's length. And I think it's not hypocritical of him to say I don't think he's changed.
I wonder whether he's going to get into a situation where he tries to provoke Todd into showing his true colours, and then he makes an idiot out of himself.
Yeah.
In front of Paul,
like
maybe.
He thinks he can trick Todd by saying something or other, and Todd's one step ahead of him.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think that could be really good.
Maybe it'll be a New Year thing.
Oh, a good New Year bamboozle.
Right. Metcalf story. So we had a bit of Yasmin, a bit of Elaine, a bit of Tim all this week, and because of all the baby stuff that's going on over at the bookies' flat, Yasmin realises that it's about time that she moved back into her home. The people have come round and done a really good clean-up job after that fire that ravaged the place just a few weeks ago.
It's like there never was a fire there at all.
They've done a really good job of making it look like there's no fire ever has taken place there. So they go round there, and Yasmin's a bit upset because she's got no money for Christmas, and she's just kind of left alone with her thoughts at the end of Thursday's episode. But Friday she's bucked herself right up because she's prepping her Christmas lunch. This was like chirpy and cheery.
She was like excited about the prospect of having Christmas and asking everybody what they wanted and making a list, and then she realises she can't pay for it.
Yeah.
And she gets upset again.
Yeah, but everything's cool on Friday because there's one thing that she can do, and that's make a nice Christmas lunch.
She can cook.
Also, we've got Elaine going round, it's like the B story of this, going round to Tim's house with 16 years worth of Christmas presents that she'd sent to him when he was a little boy, and they all got sent back to him. I mean, if it was me, I'd have maybe been putting these up on eBay, but
didn't have eBay
for
back
a touching
in those
Christmas
days.
Scenes. She
I
gave
don't
them
think
to
you
Tim.
would, Michael.
Well, maybe Tim will. He's like, oh, a Neutron Man, I've always wanted
and
this.
It's
How
boxed
much is
in
this
pristine
worth now?
condition.
Yeah, there were just some nice, lovely scenes. Not much happened.
It was just to remind us that she had been thinking of Tim, and it wasn't her fault.
Yes.
That she wasn't part of his life and he didn't learn to read.
Yeah, and Tim tries to use it as an excuse, or he almost gets into a let's all badmouth Jeff session, but Sally's like, no, we're not going to waste our time hating Jeff. Let's just enjoy Christmas
Elaine
together.
does as well. She tells him not to.
Yeah.
And I think out of everybody, Elaine's the one that has adjusted the best.
She's just like gone she's just had this huge weight lifted off her,
Yeah,
hasn't she?
yeah.
And it's like she's finally been able to come out of her shell at last.
She's just one of my favourite new characters.
She's great. She needs to. I'm looking forward to seeing what, if anything, and I'm not convinced they are going to keep her on.
No.
What, if anything, they're going to do with her when she's not in this story. Because
Yeah.
it feels to me like I'm ready to move on from Jeff now, but it's clear from what they had Yasmin going through on Friday's episode that he's still there in the shadows haunting
Go on,
her.
tell me what happens.
Well, she gets a bit of a shock, doesn't
Who
she?
does?
Yasmin. She goes to put a glass in a cupboard or get a glass out of a cupboard and finds one of Jeff's painted red crosses at the back there. There's somewhere there she forgot to clean up. And then
All this time, it's disgusting.
I know
Yasmin.
that red cross has been there. And then Ryan puts his foot in it by joking to Kathy that she's drunk because Yasmin has a bit of a panic
She
attack,
goes a bit
doesn't she? She goes a
wheezy.
bit weird. And
Ryan's
Ryan's
like, whoop, drunk again.
and Yasmin, the way that Shelley delivered it was great. She's like, "No, I'm not." And then Ali is like, "X-nay on the unk tray, Ryan."
up,
And he's like,
Ryan.
sorry. But then it kind of gets a bit worse later.
Well, she kind of tries to jolly along. She's like, oh, but actually, wait, maybe we should have drinks. Everyone, let's all have
Oh
drinks.
yeah, I think just getting squiffy sounds good to me.
Oh, she tries
so
so
she goes
hard,
over to get the wine bottle
Doesn't
from the
she?
side.
She tries so hard to leave it in the past, but it's not going to
No.
stay
Well,
there.
It's still, I
Still
mean, it's
too
only a
new.
few weeks away,
I
isn't it?
know.
A few weeks ago. So
So
she
when
goes
she
to
goes
get
to-
this wine bottle.
And
then
this is
she,
when I said to my mum and dad, oh yeah, earlier in this year, she glassed her abusive husband nearly to death with
With a wine bottle.
With a wine bottle, because he said she was
So
drunk.
she starts having flashbacks to that scene, and then when Kathy's there getting Ryan to carve the turkey, she has flashbacks to the scene where Kathy and Jeff were having an argument about inequality between the sexes or something. I can't remember. And she just
We get
remembers
echoes of his voice.
the audio from
saying,
it.
oh, women always annoying or whatever.
But then it goes completely bat crazy, doesn't it? I nearly said a rude word myself then.
You never
I was
say that
thinking it.
word.
And she imagines that the room is covered in crosses. It's really well done. The camera kind of pans back to it and there's red crosses everywhere where there hadn't been ones before. And then she sees Jeff in his great Magnifico outfit carving the turkey himself, calling her
With a knife in his hand.
yeah, and gesticulating
Waving it
around
around.
with it. He calls her a clumsy oaf or something because she drops whatever it was she was carrying. And then he's like, I promise I'll look after you, and I still will. And then she has a panic attack and that's under the collapse. And I thought that scene came out
I
of
thought this
nowhere.
was great.
I thought I enjoyed the David and Shona ending, but I think that
That
was
was a
probably
good bit
my
of drama.
favourite unexpected bit of drama on Friday's episode.
it's
There
how
was
you-
that scene and there was the bistro opener, the dreamy who attacked Adam thing. But this I wasn't expecting to happen. It just all of a sudden jumped out at you and it's like, oh my gosh, it's Jeff back. I thought we'd seen the last of him.
It is funny how Coronation Street over the past couple of years has brought back characters after their deaths, and it didn't
Yeah.
really ever happen before. But we've had Rana come back in her red
Sinead.
coat. Sinead's been appearing on video and also in real life, and we've had Jeff appear. Really interesting, a bit of a twist. I don't know whether they're overusing it already. I don't think
I don't know. I'm not tired of it yet.
No, I'm not either.
It certainly caught me off guard. I
Yeah.
really, really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah.
And then Elaine comes over later. Everyone's gone home and they just have a chat about taking back control, taking longer than you think. And you
4 years.
Yeah, you made a Brexit joke about that. And anyway, and Yasmin's
And she
like,
says
you've got the two things.
She says to Elaine, she says, Yasmin, remember, we will have all the fish we can eat now. Now you got to remember about the fish.
You got a deal. She says to Yasmin, you've got two things that I haven't got. Family and friends, and also that stain of a man is dead.
Yes.
And I thought that when she said family and friends, I thought they were the two things.
Yeah,
but
but
apparently
Yasmin
there was
was like,
something
"What's the
else.
other thing?"
Yeah, no, they're the two things, Yasmin. And Yasmin ends the episode kind of triumphantly cleaning off the cross from the back
I
of
mean,
the cabinet.
it was very symbolic, but is that the end? Is she turned a corner now? Or is she still going to be haunted by his memory?
She might do, but I'm kind of ready for this storyline to move on. I wouldn't mind it if we had a bit of a break from Yasmin, honestly.
I know,
That was enough to me to say she is going to get over this.
Yeah, it's
I don't need to
difficult,
see it
isn't
because the same with Leanne. after Ollie's died, and I thought, okay, they're going to give Jane Danson a bit of a rest now, and they have a little bit, but
there's no closure with her story. But this could definitely be closure for Yasmin, couldn't it?
yeah. What I really did like was seeing Kathy coming back and being all friendly with Yasmin again,
did
and
she
being happy and
apologise?
fine.
I can't remember.
I don't think she did. I remember her being on the phone to Brian about him and Alex being stuck on a service station somewhere, which is where they were both obviously quite notable by their absence. But
they couldn't. When they said,
Alex hasn't been back in it since lockdown, has he? Brian has a little bit.
When they said that they were all coming around for Christmas Day, I was thinking, how are they going to fit everybody around the table?
Yeah, that was the only snifter of a Christmas dinner drama that we got on Christmas Day, wasn't it? Usually there's always scenes of families enjoying their Christmas dinner, or families going to enjoy Christmas dinner, but it turns out that somebody forgot to put the oven on or whatever, and we didn't get any of that. It didn't feel, in many ways, really family Christmassy, did it? Because there was all this other stuff going on.
Like I said earlier, not everybody got to have Christmas dinner with their family this year.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was a nice unexpected bit on Christmas Day. I wasn't expecting that. Thought the Elaine and Tim stuff was quite nice. If I was Tim, I'd be thinking, did you send me birthday presents as well?
Yeah, you could have sent me money in a card, whap it in a premium bond, and let's get some money coming.
Yeah, she comes and gives him like 16 years worth of £2 as like,
not
thanks.
Really, yeah.
Interest, please, Mum. You heard of that?
Have you heard of investments?
Finally.
Winter
we
sales.
got the winter sales story.
Oh, I didn't really like this.
It did seem pointless, utterly pointless.
Oh, the thing is, Coronation Street has done a trick that they often do, where they take something that's topical and they haven't done before, get confused about how to tell the story that makes sense to everybody, and then just turn it into something else that everybody already knows about. So they've got a multi-level marketing company story, and they turned it into a "we can't shift this stock at Christmas" story. Because there's definitely lots of things that you can do with a multi-level marketing company story, because people's lives have been ruined by what you have to go through sometimes to go through these.
Well, there's still Sean and Michael that are also going through this, isn't there?
I know. I'm just thinking
this was the light-hearted stuff to counterbalance the darkness on Monday and Wednesday's episode.
Can you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That there's more to be told in a story about this, and they're just doing something I feel like we've seen before. So on Monday, it's the Winter Browns back again. Chesney,
no money.
They haven't got any money. And they've still got 5 kids. None of them have been
Regretting
killed
turning
off.
down that Freshco's deal yet, Chesney?
Morals are more important than food, apparently, when you have 5 children to feed. Chesney suggests that Bernie look after the quads, while Gemma goes to a fitness centre to get some orders in, because it's really quite a clever place to go, full of posh people with too much money.
You were expecting there to be a... you said, I wonder if we'll see the mummies, the
mummies from, Maudsley Street.
But they didn't make an appearance.
Gemma strops into the factory because Michael's already been there and poached her buyers. She went down, primed everybody, went back to get the orders, and he'd already swooped in to get them. And he is apologetic because he didn't realise that she had done that, and she was still interested. And she's like, well, I couldn't go because I've got 4 or 5 kids to look after. I can't just swan off whenever I want to go and do stuff. So he says to her, I feel really bad about this. I'll buy your stock off you. And she says, no, I'm going to sell it myself. I'm going to make a profit.
Look, a market stall has sprung up on Victoria Street.
Oh, it's a marketplace, isn't it? It's not just a store.
Oh, yeah.
So Chesney comes home and she's hanging a hideous wreath on the door, which he thinks was Joseph, but it actually was Kirk. I'm surprised it wasn't Gemma, because, she said it looked horrible, but that seems like her kind of choice of decoration normally. He says, why don't you sell the stuff on this market stall? I don't know, Chesney, why don't you do it? You used to run a market.
Well, he does. He says he takes over in the end.
I know, he mentions that he used to do, which I'm glad. And remember back in the day when he was struggling and had his little pet market stall, and we were saying, I wonder if he'll be like a business tycoon. No. On Wednesday, they put the stall together. She's not really able to sell very much. So Chesney says, why don't you go and have a break? So he and Kirk man the stalls themselves and seem to be doing much better than she was. They end up selling half their stuff before they get distracted, come back to the stall and find out that somebody's stolen everything.
Oh no!
And I can't believe that anybody would try to steal this stock that they couldn't shift. And Chesney's, they're talking about how
Somebody's
to get it back.
Desperately needed.
Mascara.
They're definitely in need of mascara and.
Chesney's like, oh, there's no
Mule.
point trying to find it. They've probably sold off the stock by now. And I was thinking, how can they do it and you can't, Chesney? And also, the other thing that was weird about this was there was a money tin, and for some reason, the thieves took the cash out of it but left all the coins. Wouldn't you just take the whole tin? Anyway, they're devastated because they've been robbed. They don't want to tell Gemma what's happened. Chesney says he needs a Christmas miracle. Later, we see Chesney and Kirk with big boxes of Christmas presents. They said that they have sold all the stock, but they can't tell her where the money really came from, and we still don't know. It's a Christmas mystery.
It's totally.
It's slightly more mysterious than who attacked Adam in the bistro.
At least we've got a list of suspects for that. Don't know whether we get anything here.
I still say they've been trading sexual favours for cash down the little alleyway that is where the tram station is.
Oh yeah, maybe.
In the little dark corner.
Do you think we'll find out?
It
feels like we should.
Otherwise,
or
it's
they're just like,
pointless.
oh, nobody really cares. This is just a filler storyline.
Do you care about things like that? Yes, we do.
Well, they were both sitting in the booth at the Rovers where Adam's phone ended up being found when they were discussing this Christmas miracle, which made me wonder whether they found his phone, took some cash out of it because they obviously had some slots for cards and used that. I don't know.
That would be quite interesting.
I don't know. Yeah, but I don't think
Chesney and Kirk would steal money that brazenly.
No.
It makes me think that they've sold something dear to them.
Yeah, so we've got that to endure whenever that comes back on the screen. It's just weird how this storyline just disappeared midway through the week.
Why would you... I don't get... If you have 4 babies and they're that young, don't buy them anything. They're babies.
Yeah, they're not going to know.
They really won't... I don't see what the point. It's just rubbish. It's just literally you're making rubbish.
Yeah. But anyway, that's why we're not parents.
And no, I don't think there's anything wrong with not buying a baby a present. I think we're already... I mean, I don't want to get weird about it, but the planet's dying because we keep buying crap we don't need.
Well, you say that the babies won't know, but I thought it was a bit funny when your mum brought Abby a Christmas present the other day, and we went to unwrap it with her, and she absolutely loved it. It was a catnip fish or something, and she was clawing it out of my hands. So she appreciated it. Maybe little 1-year-olds can appreciate a giant Ninja Turtle or whatever it was that they got bought.
I don't think babies know they're alive.
Right. Overall thoughts on Christmas week then, Gemma? Is this a high-scoring week or an okay one?
I thought this was great. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't expecting much out of Christmas. As soon as Adam got bonked on the head, I suddenly perked up a bit. I'm really enjoying it. I thought it was great. I think I'm going to give it quite a high mark. I really liked the Toyah and Imran stuff, the little baby. If you go onto our Twitter, you'll find a little clip that we edited of their Christmas Day baby experience, which you might think is funny.
It deviated somewhat from what actually happened.
I don't think everybody who saw the clip actually watched to the end, judging from some of the comments. I like the intrigue with the Adam stuff. I think
I'm still only
the Yasmin stuff was exciting. The Shona and David thing. The first time I've actually been interested in a couple's romance for a long time, and I didn't really buy Shona and David together before, but now I'm actually liking them much more as a couple than I ever did. And you used to be a Shona and David fan, so how do you feel about it?
I still prefer her how she used to be.
I know, but what do you think about them as a couple? Like, is it annoying you that she's different? Do you feel like they're less suited to each other now? Because I would think if I was a fan of Shona and David originally, I'd be a bit cheated.
I think they are a little bit, but the way that they've been writing it, both of them, is to make us think that they're not really suited for each other anymore, and maybe they should just split up. But now that they've had this epiphany on Christmas Day about, you know, everything could be okay, then maybe they won't be so heavy-handed in writing Shona continually putting her foot in it like she has been doing. So I'm perfectly willing to give it a proper go, and I think that if the end of Friday's episode was any indication about how the rest of this will go, then I'm all for it.
Good.
Thought that was lovely. All of the stuff running up to it, maybe we should just split up. It was just it felt a bit waste of time. I think we'd already got the fact that David was having a bit of a rough time, but it made up for it on Friday. So I enjoyed that. The Yasmin stuff was great.
Biggest letdown was David didn't get his canoe off Gail.
Oh yeah, he didn't. That's another thing. That's another thing where I think it was written in there for a laugh. Gail wouldn't really buy David a canoe, but they've written it in because wouldn't it be funny if what's the weirdest thing that Gail could buy? A canoe? You know, it didn't make me laugh, and now Nick's got it's silly. It don't need it.
Nick would use a canoe.
Anyway,
can I give my score?
Yeah.
4.5.
What? 4.5?
Yeah.
That's generous.
It's Christmas.
That's super generous.
I've been generous this Christmas. I've bought presents for people I haven't spoken to for 5 years. So I'm feeling very generous. I'm going to give it 4.5 bra dummies. Because there were so many things that were surprisingly good to me. I didn't have high expectations. Perhaps that's the difference. I always think that low expectations is the secret to liking anything more than you would have done. I really loved how they managed to be. I think it was a really appropriate Christmas for where we are as a country and the world. You know, with the pandemic, it wasn't overly schmaltzy, and there wasn't like cozy Christmas family eating dinner. People were muddling through and doing what they could do in the situation they were in. And that's how everybody had to spend their Christmas this year. And they had some drama and they had some intrigue. They had Jeff coming back. They had a sweet little baby Christmas story for Toyah and Imran. Imran's face when he said Merry Christmas to Toyah is going to keep cropping up in my memory for years to come. The Shona and David story with David reliving the wedding blow for Shona in the thing was just enchanting piece of television, because it was well acted and performed by Jack P. Shepherd and Julia Goulding, and it was I thought it was magical, and it showed the power that you can generate from properly crafted character moments on Coronation Street. You don't need someone falling to their death off the top of a helter-skelter every year to make it a memorable Christmas story.
Well, apparently, compared to EastEnders and Emmerdale, Coronation Street, from people who I've seen that have watched them all, so people are saying that Corrie ended up better. You know, I think Emmerdale was a bit silly and EastEnders too dark or something. I don't know. But Coronation Street also was the winner in the ratings on Christmas Day, although still, you know, low ratings
Very
all
low.
the way around. But Corrie came 6th on Christmas Day, but it was ITV's top scoring show. But the Queen, Mrs. Brown's Boys,
I think the Queen
some
had
Michael
a higher
McIntyre thing.
The Queen had like 8.16 million or something, which was higher than last year.
It is. Everyone's just wondering what she was going to say about COVID.
Did you hear the conspiracy theory about why the picture of Phil was the only one on the piano?
No.
They reckon he's dead already.
Oh God.
I don't think he is, but everyone was saying that because usually she has a big family array of photos, isn't she, on the piano, and or whatever she's sitting behind. But this year it was just Prince Philip. Yeah, the bar. And I think that was sweet because it showed that she, like, this year she could only be with Philip. I thought that was sad.
She's forgotten who everyone else is.
Oh, you're such a bastard. Rude. I'm going to kick you out of this country.
I'm glad that Corrie did well. It's a shame that Christmas Day soaps don't get massive viewers like they like to. But
Something
the television landscape
has happened
is different.
To Christmas television, hasn't it? Christmas television used to be an event, and it used to be like a kind of an anomaly that the UK had special Christmas TV, because I don't think many other countries have special programming at Christmas the same way that we used to. There used to be, whatever was the big show that year for BBC or ITV would have a Christmas Day special episode. So you'd have like Vicar Dibley or Absolutely Fabulous or anything, and it would just be fun and cool and Christmassy and a family occasion that
they're
everybody...
not even putting Doctor Who on Christmas
Day for the last
couple of years.
It's all rubbish because everybody does streaming stuff.
Yeah.
But the difference is that streaming shows can't really do a Christmas thing.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's a shame. But anyway, Corrie won the race. I'm not going to have a cabin in this week's episode, by the way, so I'm going to be including that in there. And also Emmerdale beat Coronation Street and the Big Soap Quiz again, which I think is bang out of order. They should have just let
They
them
should have
win
let them
because it
win.
was the 60th anniversary this year. But now Emmerdale has won more of them than Coronation Street, and I'm not very happy about that. Anyway, I didn't give my score. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't as gripped as you were by a lot of this, so I'm giving this 3.5 gaffer tape bum cheeks
3.5
out of 5, which is what
You
Gemma
Scrooge.
said. I don't know, Gemma mentioned it some way to do with the quads.
Well, who's
earlier
your
on.
character of the week?
Oh, I haven't thought about character of the week yet. Have you got one?
Baby Yoda.
No, Baby Yoda was not in this week's episode. That was just on our Twitter. It was very ensemble-y, wasn't it?
I'm going to say David because
I was going
he was
towards
part
David.
of my favourite story. Even though I thought I was very I found myself prickling towards the breaking them up beforehand, but he was just such a showman, and like I said, so charming.
He's show's man.
Showman. Use that for a one down the line. I just thought it was charming and sweet and understated and romantic, and I don't normally care about any of those things.
Yeah, and I don't think I could give it to anybody in the Adams storyline because everybody's still backstabbing and trying to get each other in trouble and
Well,
trying to
the-
get
the-
themselves
is
out
there
of
a
trouble
main-
and everything.
Is there a main character of that story? No, there isn't.
There doesn't need to be a main one.
No,
but
I
it's
know,
just,
but there doesn't need to be for that one. But normally, when you're thinking of who's character of the week, you think what's the main story, who's the main character of the main story, and you can't pick one out. The person who's closest to being the main character of the Addams story at the moment is Daniel, and Daniel's just being an absolute arsewipe.
Is he just trying to get away? People are still wondering whether it was him that did it as well. But
I think it'd be a bit
I think-
annoying if it was him twice.
and he did seem pretty convinced last week that it was Sarah as well, and it wasn't
that's
like
what
he was.
he would say.
I don't think he was just trying to put it on her, deflect it on her. He really did seem to think that. Anyway, I think I'll go with David as well. It could be Shona because she was fun, but David for orchestrating the lovely finale on Friday's
Shona's
episode.
a very close runner-up because I really liked her telling Daisy off and saying she had a moose face, and I'm not stupid, I'm brain damaged. I thought that was a great line.
Yeah. There we go. David wins Christmas for us.
Yay!
Congrats, Dave.
Oh, I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this week, and I hope everybody else enjoyed bits and
We'll
pieces.
find out soon, won't we? Right, let's finish off the podcast with some feedback then.